Welcome to the Overlady Reads, the show where I, the Overlord, have a wife, the Overlady, who reads. And this time you've read Oathbringer Part 3. Yes. Oathbringer Part 3. This is like episode, what, we're on like 12 or 13 or something?
I don't know. Keep track.
Yeah. And so you can in the description, we've got parts 1 and parts 2. We're doing Oathbringer by part because unlike other books, all the books have a lot in them, but Oathbringer has a lot in it.
Yeah.
So check out in the description for parts 1 and 2, and let's jump into part 3 of Oathbringer.
Yeah. All right then.
Cool.
We'll start with Dalinar because he's like our main man.
He's our main dude.
And he's also where my most experimental theories come about.
Okay. I'm okay with experimental theories.
Thank you. I will not be told that they are wrong. They are definitely right. So it starts with Dalinar waiting by the Oathgate, and he's just had his first interaction with Odium.
Yes.
So he's like thinking about it, and he's quite worried about it.
Understandably so.
And then Shallan and Kaladin come through the Oathgate from
Thaylen City.
Thaylen City.
In Thaylenar.
Yeah, because they flew there and we didn't get a nice, Kaladin, Shallan bonding moment, but it's okay.
I remember distinctly...
I can live without it.
When you read that bit, you came to me and you were like, oh, we didn't get to see it. And I was like, you didn't see what? And you're like, we didn't get to see Kaladin and Shallan go to Thaylen City. I'm like, Kaladin and Shallan go to Thaylen City?
Word count was wasted on giving Moash a scene. And instead I could have had a lovely, nice Shallan and Kaladin moment, because them two together, it's, really sweet.
Yeah.
They talk about their emotions together, and it's nice.
It's the only characters, these two characters need to talk to people about their emotions.
Yeah, well, Shallan is about to have some kind of breakdown.
Yeah.
Because, oh boy.
Does she have a breakdown?
It's getting to her.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice for her to have a scene with Kaladin talking about that.
Yeah.
And Kaladin voicing the fact that he's concerned that now that he's in such a position, there's so much responsibility on him and he's not used to it. It would have been nice to...
And then Shallan could have been like, oh yes, everything's fine with me, whilst inside she's screaming, you killed my brother. Because that's something she pushes down and then never addresses.
Oh, no. That's going to be one of the lies that she eventually addresses to move up a radiant level.
Yeah. Man, moving up the light weaves is really easy. You just lie to yourself and then just tell the truth. It's super easy.
But I think it doesn't
quite work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to be quite an emotional one to have to move through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, so then with the Oathgates now connected, Dalinar and a little group like Navani, they go through to Thaylenar so they can check out the city.
Okay.
Before they go, Dalinar tells Kaladin that now that he's an important guy, he's got some lands that are now his. Oh,
yes. You get Bright Lord Stormblessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those lands that are definitely still his right now.
Oh, definitely, totally still his, yes.
So they go through the Oathgate. They get to Thaylen City.
Yeah.
And it is a mess. Because of the normally when a high storm goes through the land, they're quite to the coast.
Yeah.
So the high storm only really they get a light wind.
Yeah, well they have they're built against a rock outcropping which protects them mostly. So
it doesn't affect them, but the other storm coming the other way has completely destroyed their wooden shack buildings. Yeah. And all of their stone monuments have been absolutely destroyed.
Lightning strikes and all that.
Yeah. So the city is a wreck, like Fen said it was.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that she was being honest.
Yeah.
But then I quite trust Fen. She seems like a very honest woman.
I know what you mean.
So they're visiting all these different temples, and Dalinar is just being a politician.
Okay.
Which he doesn't quite enjoy.
Yeah, he doesn't quite get.
Yeah, and Navani's at least try and smile, and he's it's hard. this is the 10th temple we've been to today.
Yeah.
They go to the Shalash temple.
Yes. Mm.
And can't think why, but the statues inside, the faces have been destroyed on. I've immediately just written down Mistress.
Yeah.
She's clearly been having fun in this temple designated to her.
Yeah.
Love Mistress.
She's great.
The temple is currently being used as like a makeshift hospital because obviously with the Everstorm, lots of people got injured in that. So Taravangian, who's with them, is like, Fen, please let me use the Oathgate to bring some of my surgeons in.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, we need that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then she's talking about how they're struggling to rebuild the city now that they don't have any Parshman labourers.
Yeah.
So Dalinar's like, cool, I've got loads of troops that are literally sitting around doing nothing. Why don't I bring them in to give you extra labourers? And she just completely blanks him.
She's like, Taravangian, yes. Dalinar, no.
It's like no one wants the Blackthorn soldiers in their city. I don't know why.
Who knows why?
Oh no, we're going to have to talk about that.
We will, don't you worry.
He notices that one of the soldiers is slightly better dressed than the others.
Yes.
And Thaylen?
Thaylen, yeah.
Thaylen, cool.
Thaylen City, yes.
They have this weird sort of like...
Hierarchy?
No, like royal... Like, how do you say royal structure?
Monarchy.
They have this monarchy.
Yes.
Where the heir isn't made the heir.
Yeah.
So, like, her son is just another guy.
Oh, he's like a general, yes.
Yeah. And then once she dies, I think he then, like, gets voted in.
Okay.
But it's very much they're the only sort of choice.
Isn't it because it's like, they're like a merchants. The merchants are the ones with real power, and they just vote in a queen to run the city or run the country whilst they go off and do their merchanting.
Yeah. So Dalinar notices one slightly better dressed, and he's like, well, that's definitely her son.
Yeah.
And then she leaves them in a courtyard to have some refreshments while she goes to do official city business. And Dalinar's like, yep, she's just doing this as a power play. That's cool.
Yeah.
I've got my own power play.
Yeah.
Her son has sort of like been butting heads with Dalinar. And he quite obviously wants to fight the Blackthorn. So Dalinar gives him the Blackthorn.
I was like, heck yeah, let's have a fight, buddy.
He starts baiting him. And the guy, to save face, is like, let's have a duel.
Yeah.
And Dalinar's like, cool, but I want an unfair... It's got a name, hang on. And it's an uneven match.
Yeah. Similar to
duel?
what Aelan did. It's weighted. Like an unevenly weighted duel.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So the way that this one works is that one opponent gets 3 minutes with a sword against an unarmed opponent.
Okay.
And then after that 3 minutes, if he's not made a successful hit, they have to swap rounds. So it's the first to draw blood wins.
Yeah.
So Dalinar, obviously for the 3 minutes, is managing to completely avoid being touched by this sword in any way at all.
Yeah.
And he's waiting until the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
When obviously her son, panicking, knowing that the Blackthorn is coming for him,
yes,
starts really going in, like desperately trying to get a hit. And he brings the sword up, like to really like hit Dalinar hard.
Yeah.
And Dalinar lets it hit him in the chest.
Yes.
And like pushes the blade in further.
Yeah.
Because you've got the Blackthorn.
You love when he just goes, yeah. Yo, look at that. You stabbed the Blackthorn. There you go. All good.
So he draws in Stormlight to heal the wound.
Yeah.
And the guy like is quite horrified. Pulls his sword out and the wound like heals around it. And the guy is like,
yeah.
The wound isn't there, so I guess it's your turn with the sword. And Dalinar's like, no, you drew blood. That was the agreement.
Yeah.
This duel is over. And he's like, yeah, but you let me? Dalinar's like, nah.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar...
Be better next time, buddy, you know.
Yeah. And then Dalinar does a Kaladin and gets all, like, broody about his actions.
Oh, and he starts, like, gathering people to follow him so he can raise them up, and then they all die horribly. Yeah.
So he starts brooding because he feels that as a leader, he shouldn't have been baited into that duel.
Yes.
And that wasn't fair on him to do that to her son.
I want to say his name is Kamakel.
Yeah.
I think it's Kamakel. If it's not Kamakel, then let's just call him Kamakel.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like apple.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like mackerel. I'm in the mood for some mackerel.
Okay, let's call him mackerel.
Let's call him mackerel.
So Dalinar
Yeah.
goes to sit on the temple steps and he's sitting there brooding by himself.
Yeah.
And he starts to hear a voice telling him to unite them.
Yes.
And he realises that the voice is coming from all of, like, the broken stones around him.
Yes.
So he's like, let's see what my Bondsmith can do.
Yeah.
So he completely rebuilds the front wall of this temple using his bonding skill.
Yes.
And he's like, whoa, I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
And obviously all the soldiers down below have, like, watched this.
Yeah.
And they're all really impressed because they're like, damn, he can fix our buildings that easily.
Yes.
So then they start going about, like, rebuilding all statues together.
Yeah, and him gluing them back together.
Yeah. And then Fen comes back to what she assumed was going to be them brooding over snacks together.
Yeah.
And instead she comes back and they're all working together to, like, find bits of statue and rebuild these statues. She's like, what is this?
He's like, you said you needed help rebuilding, so I thought I'd help you rebuild.
Yeah. And then he's like, whilst he's doing this, he's already sent for Renarin to come in through the Oathgate because
so
Renarin can heal.
Yeah.
So Renarin's in a temple healing people and people are coming out absolutely fine within, like, minutes of being... Well, not minutes of being injured.
Yeah.
But they're recovering from their injuries within minutes. And she's like, yeah, maybe the Radiants aren't awful and maybe we should accept their help. So then she agrees to let some of the troops from Alefkar join her city.
Yeah. There's some interesting realmatics going on with him putting those stones back together.
Yeah.
Because Bondsmiths have adhesion and tension. And neither of those powers appear to be gluing stones back together.
Yeah.
Because, like, adhesion is like sticking it together, but then as you see with...
But it is sticking it together.
It's sticking it together, but then when Kaladin does it, they fall back apart.
Yeah, but it's not Kaladin's main one, is it?
Exactly, yeah.
It's Kaladin's, like, secondary ability.
Yeah.
Whereas it's a Bondsmith's main ability.
Yeah.
Forging bonds seems like his main ability.
Exactly. And so there's something interesting going on that the powers... This is one of those things where the powers work differently for different orders.
Yeah.
Bondsmiths, I think we've just kind of dubbed it spiritual adhesion, because you can glue stuff back together spiritually and reforge it. I've no idea where you're going with it. Are you looking at that?
Is the Stormfather a corrupted Spren?
No! The powers just manifest slightly differently for different orders.
Well, I'm glad you said the word spiritual.
Okay.
Keep that in your head.
I'm going to keep that in my head. I know where you're going with this.
Cool. She also agrees that she's going to help him to get the Azish people on board because she's got a good relationship with them. So in the next scene with Dalinar, he this is where my theory comes.
Oh, is your theory coming in?
This is where we're going.
Cool. So what's the next scene then?
So the next scene with Dalinar, he goes and fetches Yezrian's honor blade.
Yeah.
I know words.
Yeah, you got it.
And he's talking to Stormfather.
Yeah.
And he asks Stormfather if he knows where they are.
Oh, all the other honor blades. Yeah.
No, not the other honor blades, the heralds.
Oh,
the ones who own the blades.
Yes.
And Stormfather says that there's only one that he can see. And that's Ishar,
Yeah.
who is currently posing as King
The God King Tezim.
God King Tezim.
Yes.
Who likes to invade people.
Yes, God King Tezim is having fun in Tukar and having fights with people. He's just having a great time. He's just battling away, trying to conquer things from Tukar.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So, in this conversation,
yes,
the Stormfather says that there can only ever be 3 bondsmiths.
Yes.
Because you have to be bonded to one of his siblings to be a bondsmith.
Yes. Also, I don't know, I can't remember if you know this, but the Ishar is the herald of the bondsmiths.
I think so.
Yeah, which is why this.
I don't keep track of heralds.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, which is why this conversation went from Ishar to bondsmiths.
I just assumed it was Dalinar being Dalinar, mate.
No. Ishar is the herald of the bondsmiths.
So, at this point, that meant that there have to be 3 unusual Spren in the world.
Okay.
He says that his siblings are currently sleeping.
One of them is, yes.
He says that his siblings are currently sleeping and that's why they're not bonded.
Okay.
So, there being 3 siblings, I started looking at other things in Roshar that were in threes.
Okay.
Because there's always a number connection with things.
I think there is number connections in things, yes.
So, Roshar also has 3 realms. You have the spiritual, cognitive, and physical.
Yeah.
I know that's not exclusive to Roshar.
Cool, I was about to say that.
But give me a minute.
Minute given.
Thank you. So, the Stormfather, I have decided, is from the spiritual realm.
Okay.
Because he, like a lot of Dalinar's powers, he talks about being spiritual. And he says that he can do things because of the spiritual connection.
Yes.
So I've decided that he is like part of the spiritual realm.
Okay.
I have then decided that that means that one of his siblings must be of the physical realm.
Yep.
So it has to be something that is found in the physical realm.
Yes.
At which point, there's another gigantic, strange Spren that we know about.
Yes.
Kusakesh.
Okay.
Kusakesh is his sibling.
Okay, Kusakesh is the physical realm sibling.
Yes.
Okay. And then who would be the cognitive realm sibling?
So cognitive, I have changed my mind since my first theory.
You've been stewing on this one for a while, haven't you?
I have been. So originally I thought that it was the flying creatures that you see in a High Storm. The
Storm Striders, which I told Lucy about. Yes.
I assumed it maybe was that because at certain points, like where the storm is, the cognitive realm is close to the physical realm.
Yeah, the realms are close.
At which point they come through because of that.
Okay.
I figured that's why you could only see them during the storm, is because they're not in the real world.
Yeah.
I then, upon reading more into this part, I'm going to say it now because otherwise it's going to be disjointed.
Yeah.
So when, spoiler alert.
Spoilers for Oathbringer, by the way, guys. And Words of Radiance and Way of Kings and Elantris and
everything
Mistborn,
else.
Just everything, yeah.
So spoilers, but the Radiant guys end up being taken to Shadesmar.
Yes, they do.
And when they drop down into Shadesmar, there is a creature with gigantic claws in the beads, like.
Oh, when they go through the Cosmere Oathgate, giant hands, claws come out of the bead. See, by the way, that's a thing that happens. Don't forget about that. That's a thing that happens.
At which point, I'm currently looking for a gigantic cognitive realm Spren.
You are, yes,
and that fits my description.
Cool.
So I'm going to go with Clory guy.
Cool. Everyone's going to be screaming at me back home to like correct you or point out any flaws.
I am not wrong.
What a great theory you came up with, Lucy. Moving on.
Hang on.
Okay.
Before we do move on,
I have
also decided that each one came from one of the moons at some point.
Okay, thank God you brought the moons. I was like, come on, there's so many other things in threes.
I refer to this as my moon theory because there's also 3 moons.
There is.
So I've decided that each of the giant Spren at some point came down to Roshar from one of the moons.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so giant and different.
Okay, fair enough. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like Moonspren. Like, there would be Moonspren. Like, everything on Roshar has a Spren. It's like kind of like the whole thing. So, like, you know, surely there's Moonspren.
Yeah, that's my thing of freeze, moon Spren theory.
Anything else in threes?
Oh, don't put me on the spot like that.
Oh, come on.
Mate.
There's a real big one. There's one that's blaringly obvious. There's 3 things on Roshar screaming at you. There you go.
I know, but, like, technically there's 2-ish.
Yeah. There's 2-ish. There's like a dead one.
There's a whole one.
Yeah.
There is a splintered one.
Yeah.
And there is one that is kind of stuck there but doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So the next chapter that we have Dalinar is after the Kholinar mission has departed.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So Dalinar gives Bridge 4 the Honor Blade to practice with whilst Kaladin's gone.
Yeah.
Because they can't draw Stormlight without Kaladin, but they need to keep practicing their flying to get better at it.
Yeah.
So he gives them the Honor Blade because that gives them the power, and that means that they can still keep practicing when Kaladin's not about. And it's my favourite. This one's like my favourite chapter.
Oh, what happens in this chapter?
So this is when Dalinar goes to Azir for the first time.
Yes.
So I need someone to animate this scene for me. Because Dalinar gets there and they're expecting, like, they're preparing to be invaded by the Blackthorn because they don't know what to expect from him at this point. But he turns up completely by himself because that's what he agreed to. Mm-hmm. So he gets there and, like, the whole control building is, like, full of soldiers. Yeah. They're stationed all around.
There's, like, archers, you know, on raised things.
Yeah. The Viziers are there to await him. And the Prime isn't there because they didn't want to risk it. Yeah. So he gets there. And he pulls out the first contract. Yeah. And he gives them this, like, gigantic, like, thick document from Queen Fen on why they should join the coalition. Yeah. And, like, all of the visors are, like, getting excited about it. Like, ooh, reading.
From Queen Fen, ooh.
And they're, like, having a look through. Yeah. And whilst doing that, he, like, touches a soldier so that he can...
Speak their
language because he bonds to the language. And they're like, and then the head visor's like, it's sweet of you that you've learned
the head visor.
Azeshi.
Yeah, Azish. Yeah.
This is lovely. We're going to give it to the Prime and he'll have a look through. And Dalinar's like, I'm not done. And he pulls out another document.
Yes.
This time it's from Navani. And it's like...
Secret. It's like Fabrial Secrets, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's like a nice, like, message of, like, coalition. Yeah. With all of these, like, secrets. So obviously they're, like, wetting themselves at this point. They're like, oh, this is insane. Like, secrets. Yeah. We can now, like, go and learn stuff. We're so excited. And Dalinar's like, haha, I'm not done.
This isn't even my final
Pulls out the final document. It's a 1-page letter from Yasna.
Oh, man.
The visors are now going mental. Yeah. They're like, man, this is the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. And it is. I love that scene as well.
And Dalinar's like, take me to the Prime then. And they're like, yes!
Yeah.
Information!
Like, we love this.
So I need that animated. Yeah. Because that is hilarious. Yes. Like, that's my favourite scene so far.
It was grand. They're going expecting one thing and now I was like, no. This.
So they then take Dalinar to a little, like, waiting room whilst they go and discuss with the Prime. Yeah. Dalinar pulls out the lunchbox that Navani made for him.
Yeah, because he brought a packed lunch on his school trip. Yeah.
Adorable. He pulls it out, but it's already half eaten.
Yeah.
And then he looks across the room to see Lift is eating his food.
Yeah.
And she's like, nice to see you again. He's like, yeah, you want to come back with me? And she's like, nah, but we can sit and eat food for a bit.
Yeah.
So he's talking to Lift, and it's really sweet.
They have a nice little chat.
They do. It's really cute seeing them together.
Mm.
And then the visors come back into the room.
Yeah.
And they tell him that, yeah, the coalition's on.
Awesome.
They want to come and visit.
Ethereum.
Yeah. So that they can see what it's like. And then Dalinar goes home.
Excellent.
Job done.
Job done. Easy peasy.
Oh, no! Job not done. In the conversation with Lift,
Yeah.
Lift says to him about going to the Night Watcher
Okay.
because he smells like her.
Yes.
As in, like, he smells the same that Lift does.
Yeah.
I don't think that Lift ever went to the Night Watcher, just as I don't think that Dalinar ever went to the Night Watcher.
Yeah.
I think they went to what they thought was the Night Watcher,
Yeah.
but it was Cultivation.
Okay.
Like, that is something that I've had for, like, 2 books now.
Okay.
That, like, something's not right with Lift.
Yep.
And her Spren is a Cultivation Spren.
Yep.
At which point, if her wish came from...
Night Watcher.
No,
Cultivation.
if her wish came from Cultivation, it would make sense that Cultivation gave her a Spren that was a Cultivation Spren.
That would make sense, yeah.
And then when Dalinar, like, memories of Evie started to come back, I automatically assumed that it's because he didn't actually go and see the Night Watcher.
Okay.
He saw someone else.
Yeah.
And again, I assumed that he saw Cultivation like Lift had.
Yeah.
So I think I got Lift's when I was reading Edge Dancer.
Yes.
I can't remember if I wrote that theory down or
I
not.
can't remember if you mentioned that during Edge Dance. You might
We're
have
just
done.
going to wait and see.
We're just going to wait and see.
But I'm convinced that they both went to go and see Cultivation. I don't think they went to see the Night Watcher.
Okay.
Like, I think she just sometimes, like, appears
Okay.
from her hidden spot in
Amia.
Amia.
Cool.
Because Cultivation is on Amia, and I will not be told otherwise.
Okay, what about when the books tell you otherwise?
Brandon is wrong.
Cool. Don't worry, I disagree with Brandon on things. There's things where Brandon's like, people in world would argue about this, and I'm like, yes, I am one of them. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to argue with Brandon about things.
I don't know, like, I'm still trying to work out what hidden secret is on Amia, and the only thing that I can think is that's where Cultivation is hiding from Odium.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't want anyone to know you're there.
Yeah.
But she occasionally, like, makes a trip out to, like, see the world.
Yeah.
And on those trips, she occasionally runs into Lift, you know?
Okay.
That's what I'm going for.
Interesting.
So yeah, that is where... Oh, that's not where we leave it. Because... It's when he's on his way back to the Oathgate, and he's talking to the main vizier.
Yeah.
And she makes a reference about him not being an animal.
Yeah.
And suddenly his memories of the rift come back.
Cool.
So, then we get Dalinar's flashbacks.
Yes.
So, it starts with Dalinar talking tactics with his 12-year-old son, Adolin.
Yeah.
His son that he loves so much, and the only son that he loves.
Yes.
The fighting that they're currently doing is, like, coming to an end.
Yeah.
And Dalinar's excited because their next mission is the Rift.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he's... Gavilar has... Gavilar.
Yes, his name is Gavilar!
Still don't believe you. So Gavilar has been trying to broker some kind of truce with...
Tanalan.
Tanalan.
Tanalan Jr.
Tanalan.
Yeah. That's his name!
I still don't
Stop
believe
mocking all these wonderful...
They just sound made up, and not in the normal
they are
way.
made up.
But not in the normal way. They sound like me made up ways.
Oh, okay.
So Gavilar has been trying to broker a truce with Talalan.
Yeah.
But Talalan won't have any of it. He refuses to acknowledge Gavilar as king of Alefkar. The next stop is to send Dalinar to deal with him, like he failed to do all those years ago.
Yeah.
So, Evie reads a message from Gavilar to Dalinar.
Yeah.
Adolin leaves the room. They're now heading to the Rift. Evie is distraught about this.
Yeah.
And she begs Dalinar. Well, she's distraught. She's upset that Dalinar keeps going off to fight.
Yeah.
He's not been back in Kholinar for years.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen Renarin in years. He doesn't care about that son because he's got a disease. Like, not a disease, but he's got an illness.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he doesn't seem to acknowledge Renarin at all.
Yeah.
And it upsets Evie.
Fair enough.
And he tells her that he's probably never going to live in Kholinar again.
Yeah.
And she breaks down into tears. And he's like, oh, she's upset.
Yeah, what did I do wrong?
And Dalinar eventually agrees that he's going to go and do the Rift fight because he has to. It's his job. But after that, he'll talk to Gavilar about them going and spending a year living in Kholinar.
Yeah.
And Evie is happy about that. Like, she'll get some family time. She'll get some not fighting murdery time. So
she's looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the next flashback, they're on the road to the Rift.
Yeah.
Dalinar's riding on his horse behind the carriage that Evie's in.
Yeah.
Evie is in her carriage.
Yeah.
Burning glyphs and crying a lot.
Yay!
Dalinar finally gets fed up of listening to the noise. So he goes in the carriage and demands that she stops.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. He's a great husband, he is.
Do you know what?
Good old Blackthorn.
Yeah. The Blackthorn is hard.
Yeah.
She begs him not to shed any blood. She tells him, you're a good man. You don't have to do that. Like, try and find a peaceful way. Yeah. And he's like, what is her problem? Like, I am Blackthorn, I don't do that.
Yeah, I do what I want.
And he sort of talks to her and he's like, well, you don't seem happy here. Do you want me to take you back to your homeland? Yeah. And she's like, no, mate, I'm in exile. Yeah. Like, that won't go well, will it? Just promise that we are going back to Kholinar. He's like, yes. I will give you a year. Just let me do what I need to do at the Rift.
He says, do you want me to take you back to Erie? Got you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Erie.
So they pull up outside of the Rift. Yeah. And as they do, a caravan is leaving to head off into the woods. And Telep comes up to Dalinar and he's like, yo, caravan just left. I've got some men following it.
A caravan from the Rift.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, should we start setting up for the night? And Dalinar's like, no. Get the troops in formation. Yeah. I'm off to that wall. Yeah. So all of the troops are getting lined up. Dalinar rides to the wall. I think he's by himself. Yeah. I don't know if he takes anyone with him. But he heads to the wall. And
Tanalan. Tanalan Jr., yeah.
Tanalan comes out to meet him. And they have a little back and forth. And then Dalinar pulls him to the side and he's like, look, let's try and do this with as little bloodshed as we can. Can either surrender and we'll just do what we're going to do. Yeah. Or you can duel me and you will fight just one-on-one for the city. Yeah. So Tanalan knows that he can't win a duel against the Blackthorn. So he's like, hey, why don't we pretend that we were doing this all along? And that caravan that just left actually has one of the High Princes in that's been working against Gavilar secretly. Okay. Yeah. And let's pretend that we've been allies all along. Yeah. And actually we were trying to scout out the corrupt prince. Yeah. Okay. So, Dalinar's like, yes, my long-term ally. Yeah. And then Tanalan tells him that it was Prince Sadeas.
Yes.
And he's like, I need to go and check that one out, because Sadeas is like my main man.
Yeah.
So Tanalan tells Dalinar that, yep, we're allies. You guys can come and join us on the wall.
Yeah.
Dalinar goes back, and his scouts have reported that one of the people at the camp has shard plates.
Okay.
So Dalinar's like, well, if I send any other men, they're just going to get killed.
Oh, one of the people at the camp of the people that left.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dalinar decides that he's going to go himself, because that's the only way that he can fight a shard bearer.
Yeah, he only trusts himself, yeah.
So he takes a little group of archers, and they go to follow the caravan. They get there, and it's like this canyon.
Okay.
And there's troops that are all wearing the green Sadeas colours. I didn't believe that they were Sadeas troops.
Okay.
Like, it all seemed a bit too convenient.
Yeah, it felt like a setup.
Yeah, well, there were guards outside the city I think they got there a couple of days before Dalinar did. But it's weird that the caravan left just as Dalinar was pulling up.
Yeah.
And it's weird that they're just hanging about a couple of miles outside of the city wearing Sadeas' colours.
Yeah, you'd be a bit more discreet if you were. Yeah.
So, obviously, Dalinar is wanting to find out what's going on. So he jumps down into the canyon to go and fight these guys. Yeah. And it was an ambush. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, loads of, rocks fall down on him. Yeah. And, he only survived because he's wearing the shard plate. Yeah. All of his other men are dead. And he's lying in this, quarry bit. Yeah. And these men are, searching through, trying to...
find him.
Well, collect the plates. Yeah. Let's be honest. They just want the plates.
They just want the plate.
And the thrill comes over Dalinar just as, the men get to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because he just sits there trapped, not able to do anything, and it just...
Well,
it builds in it, doesn't it?
He could quite easily just summon his blade and get out. Yeah. But he wants to make sure he takes all these men out with him, so he waits until they get to him. Yeah. And just as they pull the rocks off of him, he unleashes himself on them. Yes. And when he comes back to his senses, he is surrounded by their corpses. Yeah. He has a few cuts on him, but nothing serious. Yeah. So he starts heading back to camp. Because of the avalanche, his plates are completely drained. They're mostly broken. Yeah. So he's shedding them off as he walks, because they're too heavy to walk in. Yeah. And he literally gets back to camp with just the neck piece on.
Yes. Or gorget.
I don't know armor pieces.
I do.
And he walks into his tent. Evie's in there being consoled because the scouts have come back and said that he's dead. Yeah. She's happy he's alive, and he's like, go to sleep, woman.
Yeah, he's like, be gone. Yeah.
And he's like, right, we need to send a message. Yeah. They have tried to kill me. They set a trap. I am angry. Yeah. So him and Sadeas decide that they are going to send a message to all possible rebels. Yeah. Make sure that absolutely nobody rebels against them again. They are going to burn down the city. Yes. Dalinar orders the soulcasters to make as much oil as they possibly can. Yeah. Over the course of the night. Him and Sadeas set up their plan. Yeah. They make sure that all spam reads to Gavilar are postponed so that Gavilar
can't stop them. Yeah.
And can have deniability over the events that take place.
Yeah. Which he'll probably want.
I think everyone does. Dalinar can't sleep because he's too taken by it. Sees that they're sending out a messenger. Yeah. And he's like, nah, kill him. Yeah. So they kill the messenger before they know what the message is.
Even know what the message is, they're like, no.
Yep. And then they fight.
Yeah.
They
Well, it's
claim
not much of a fight, is it?
it's a mild fight.
Yeah.
They claim the wall very quickly. They then stand on the wall and pour oil into this wooden city that's underground.
Yeah.
And then they light the arrows on fire and they
just burn the whole thing.
burn the town to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
They make sure that everybody knows about this.
Yes.
Dalinar takes his, like, guards.
Yeah.
And they go round the side of the city to the stone
Hidey hole that
Hidey
Tamerlan had hidden when he was young. Yeah.
And they, because that was the hidey hole then, he assumes it's the hidey hole now.
Yep.
Busts open a door.
Yeah.
Doesn't look inside or anything, just throws some oil in and lights it.
Yeah.
Make sure that the place is nicely burnt before leaving.
He listens for the screams and he's like, yep, there's some screams.
It's more like crying.
Yeah.
And he's like, haha, success.
Yes.
Turns round, sees Tamerlan in the city trying to make his way to the palace that's on fire because his wife and children are screaming inside.
Mm-hmm.
So Dalinar, like, gets to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, please just save my family. And Dalinar's like, didn't work for me last time.
Yeah.
The palace then succumbs to flames and collapses. All inside are dead.
Yeah.
So obviously Tamerlan is not best pleased. Mm-hmm. At which point he takes the opportunity to tell the Blackthorn that hidey hole, not a hidey hole anymore.
It's prison.
Yeah. And somebody came to him in the night asking for a truce of sorts. Mm-hmm. And he took them prisoner.
Yep.
And Dalinar just burnt his wife.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He tried sending messengers to say, hey, I've got your wife.
But Dalinar burnt the messengers.
Killed them as well. So, there you go.
Yeah.
That's why you don't shoot the messenger, kids. That's the lesson from his.
Yeah. So at this point, the city is gone. Like, there is no way of saving the city.
There's no Rathalas left.
Yeah. The frill has started to wear off. And Dalinar asks Sadeas, we've done now, let any survivors leave. Yeah. And Sadeas is like, mate, you had me standing by the exits, killing anyone that tried to leave. Yeah. And now all of the exits are on fire, no one can leave. Yeah. Dalinar's like, cool. Just gonna listen to all the screams then, aren't we?
It's like, well.
He then strangles Tamerlan to death.
Oh, excellent. I forgot about that. Cool.
Yep. And then he tries to get back to the stone hidey hole to save Evie. Yeah. But the flames are too big. There's no way of getting back there. So he's made to go back to the camp and wait for the city to burn out.
Yep.
And when it does...
it burns for a while. I can't remember if it burns for days or was the fire gone out.
I can't remember.
By the end of the day, I can't remember either.
But somebody goes and recovers Evie's body once the flames have died down enough. Yeah. And, like, it's definitely her because, like, half her face is, like, was against a stone, so it's completely preserved. The other half is, very well done. A couple of the people in the room accuse her of being like a traitor and like she had gone in there to sort of seek refuge and Dalinar's like, no, my wife is just that kind of person. Like she just wanted peace. So it's decided that the official message is that because they all regret what they've done in the Rift. So the official message that they send out is that assassins came in the night and killed Evie.
And he burnt the city was retribution of that.
But they only burnt a couple of structures. They didn't realise that the city had oil reserves, and the city sort of got bad by itself.
Oh man.
They didn't mean to do that.
Those damn Rathalassians, they store their oil right next to their flammable buildings. That was silly of them.
Yeah. So yeah, now he can hear her screams, along with the screams of all the others that died.
Yep.
The end of the flashbacks.
The end of part 3, Dalinar's flashbacks, because we've also got the Siege of Kholinar.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that's all of the non-Kholinar.
Yes, because part 3 is... I've always said part 3 is the closest you'll get to a novel within a middle of a Stormlight Archive book.
Yeah.
Because for me, the Siege of Kholinar, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is its own... you could pull that out and put it as a novel, and that would be like a novel about a siege. You know.
Right. So.
Yes.
The Kholinar crew.
Yes.
I normally like to do my notes character by character for each part.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to structure my note-taking. I found that from this point onwards in Oathbringer, it was impossible to do that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the chapters are separated into characters. A lot of the characters are doing things at the same time as each other.
Yeah, they go away, they come together, they tell what they're going to do, they go away, do it, then they come back together, talk a bit more. Yeah.
So I found that writing it character by character, it didn't make sense when I said it back to myself.
Yeah.
And I'd be talking about a character doing something, and I'd get all the way to the end of the part, and then suddenly going back to the beginning of that part with the other characters, like it felt off.
Yeah.
So instead, I've just got the Kholinar crew.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the next couple of videos are going to need to be structured.
Yeah, where it's going to be split between Dalinar and not Dalinar kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be... So this one is the Kholinar crew and the not Kholinar crew.
Yeah.
We've done not Kholinar, we're doing Kholinar.
Yes.
The next one is going to be the Shadesmar crew and the non-Shadesmar crew.
Yeah.
And then...
Part 5 is just a big
Part 5 is just everyone. Yeah. Everyone together.
Everyone together.
Big merge.
Go. Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
So, this part with the Kholinar crew starts with them flying to Kholinar. They don't want to fly directly into the city.
Yeah.
Kaladin leaves them all hovering in the air, goes to scout the area.
Yeah.
Notices that the Alethkar flag is still flying from the palace.
Yeah.
So they still seem to have control of the city. But there's like a weird black cloud around the castle.
Yes.
And he just has a off feeling about it.
Yeah.
So he convinces them to like land just outside the city.
Yeah. Spend
the evening like scouting out, and they'll get into the city in the morning.
Yeah.
If they deem it safe. So that's what they do. They spend the night in a illusion rock that Shallan created.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And she's like made like a little pee-pee hole so they can like watch.
Yeah.
In the morning, Shallan puts disguises on them all. So she makes Adolin and Kaladin like old men.
Yeah.
To try and get them into the city.
Yeah.
She makes Kaladin unfairly ugly.
Yes, extremely ugly.
There's a level.
Yeah.
She went way above it.
Yeah.
Which is fair. I would have done the same.
Yeah.
She turns Elhokar into a light eyes woman because mannerism-wise sort of worked best for him.
Okay.
Like, she couldn't have given him dark eyes because he would have stood out too much.
Yeah, and she couldn't give him the...
I was going to say, I think making him a light eyes guy, I think people would have expected to know who he was.
Yes.
So at least making him a woman, he didn't stand out as much.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to give herself a disguise because no one knows who Shallan is.
Yeah.
So she is pretending to be this woman's ward. And the other guards can
Yeah.
keep their faces because they're just sort of
Yeah.
guards. So they decide to walk straight up to the city wall gate.
Yeah.
And there's some soldiers on the gate letting refugees in. There's a lot of refugees trying to come in.
Yeah.
And it seems that the Parshendi have a intelligence.
Yeah.
And they are sending their refugees into Kholinar to try and overwhelm it.
This was a legitimate strategy used in the past. Is you burn the fields and it forces people to go live in the city, and that's a way of running down the resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they're currently doing.
Yeah.
And as a result, the guards are starting to turn people away because it's too crowded.
Yeah.
And they're suggesting that people go south, I think.
Yeah.
To like areas where the Parshendi haven't taken an
yet.
interest. So they're arguing to get into the city, and the guards are like, well, you've got guards with you. If you just supply them to the wall, you can come in.
Oh, okay.
And Ellikar's like, no, I need my guards. Don't you know who I am? And as they're having their little argument, suddenly the drums on top of the wall sound.
Yeah.
And that is the Parshendi are doing like a ambush.
Like an air raid?
Yeah, like they're sending a small fighty party to test the defences on the wall.
Yes.
And in that confusion, they run into the city.
Yeah.
And now they're in the city.
Yay!
So it's been decided that they're not going to go straight to the palace because they don't know what awaits them.
Yeah.
And instead they're going to go to a safe house that Adolin knows about.
Yeah, because they suspect something's very wrong with the city, don't they?
Yeah.
Because obviously Ellikar's wife's there, so they're like, oh, why don't we just go there? And it's like...
Wife and child.
Wife and child. But
let's
they're
not forget the child.
Oh, let's not just forget the child.
Please
the football.
Don't.
So yeah.
So...
Yeah.
They're moving through the city. There's lots of refugees around. Shallan notices that there's some exhaustion spren around one of the women.
Yeah.
And they don't look right.
Yeah.
At all. And then they pass the Cult of Movement. The
Cult of Moments. The Cult of Moments.
Who are people that worship the Spren.
Yeah.
By dressing up as the Spren.
Yes, I forgot about these guys.
And encouraging people to follow the Spren.
Yes.
They sound like fun.
They sound great. They've got like tassels on them to represent anticipation.
I imagine
Spren.
like colourful mistcloaks.
Yeah.
Like, I need colourful mistcloaks.
Yeah, I love that idea.
So they're like, yep, we should probably check that out sometime.
Yeah.
That's new.
Yeah.
And they get to this building that Adolin knows about.
Yeah.
And it's Adolin's tailor.
Yes.
Adolin just wants to look fashionable whilst they're in town.
Yep.
So that his tailor takes them in. Well, they get to the door and she's like, what on earth are you...
Like, who are you guys?
Yeah. So Adolin drops the disguises and she is so happy to see Adolin. She lets them all in.
Yeah.
She agrees that they can all stay with her. She'll sort them out with food.
Yeah.
Like, she's a lovely woman.
Yeah.
Really lovely woman. So Adolin, Kaladin, and Ellikar are sitting with the tailor, getting filled in on what's been going on.
Yeah.
And Shallan is in the next room, and she drew the strange exhaustion spren.
Yeah.
And then she starts to wonder if other spren look different. I think she saw like some glory spren or something, and they look the same. Like there was a spren that she saw and they looked the same.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Can't remember what type, but she saw a spren, it looked the same.
Yeah. So it's not all the spren. Yeah.
Yeah, so then she starts trying to work out what spren look normal.
Yeah.
And so she decides to draw some pain spren by punching herself in the face a few times.
Yeah.
She can't punch herself hard enough.
Yeah.
So she gets the tailor scissors and stabs herself in the leg.
Yeah.
Gets the pain spren from that.
Yeah.
The pain spren don't look right.
Yeah.
So then she starts trying to think about ways to draw other types of spren.
Yeah.
And decides that her next spren are going to be embarrassment spren.
Shame spren.
Shame spren.
Yeah.
So she undoes the buttons on her safe hand. Ooh. And she goes into the meeting with the others and pretends to trip over a roll of fabric.
Yeah.
Falls on the ground. Her safe hand comes out.
Goes everywhere.
And
the indignity of it.
Her skirt comes up to her hips. So,
oh no.
Oh boy.
Not shins and knees. Ooh, scandalous.
More than shins and knees, mate.
Oh man. Oh boy.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So she is well and truly embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because everyone has seen her safe hand.
Yeah.
But she excitedly goes off to draw them.
Yeah. This is the shame Spren, which instead of collect all the petals, they collect shards of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while she's drawing them in the corner, the tailor lady, Yasaka? Thank you. You are such a supportive husband.
I have no idea what the tailor's called.
The tailor lady
Yeah.
is filling everyone in on what's been going down in Kholinar since they left, because spam reads haven't been working.
Yeah.
And she tells them about how it all started when the Queen killed one of the Ardents.
Yes.
And then she retreated into the palace and wasn't talking to anyone.
Yeah.
And the next that anyone heard, she demanded that all the parshmen were kicked out of the city.
Yeah.
And a few light eyes weren't happy about this, so they went to go and talk to her in the palace.
Yeah, that's from Caves, is there you
Caves was part of that.
Good old Caves,
My main man, Caves.
He's the best Colin.
He is. They never come out.
Yep.
We never see them again.
Yep.
And then the Everstorm.
The Everstorm, yeah.
The Everstorm comes in and...
It dropped some stuff off, didn't it?
Yeah. After the Everstorm, there was like a cloud around the palace that hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
Spren started acting weirdly. Like, the whole city seems to be falling apart a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in the chaos of the Parshendi, like, attacking the outside of the city, like, there was this big, like, chaotic moment around the Everstorm.
There was like a ruckus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that time, Captain Azula.
Azure, not Azula.
Azure.
I wish it was Captain Azula. That'd be great.
So Captain Azula took command of the wall.
Yeah.
The Queen had demanded all the sort of soldiers in the city withdraw to the palace.
Yeah.
Azure.
Yeah.
She took charge of the wall.
Yeah.
She set up the wall guards. She's somehow able to get food for all of the soldiers.
Yeah.
And any leftover she gives to the city.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I've never heard of this guard
Azure
before.
person. Yeah.
Let's check that out.
Yeah.
So it's decided that Shallan is going to go and scout out this strange cult.
Yeah.
Kaladin is going to see how much information he can get on
Azure?
the guard.
Oh, it's the war guard, yeah.
Yeah. And
what does Elhokar do?
Elhokar and Adolin have the most important job.
Oh, yes. They have to go to parties.
They have to go to Light Eyes parties and drink with them.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very important
convince their friends to be their friends.
Yes.
It's a hard life.
It's a hard life.
It's a hard life.
Yeah.
The reason that spam reads have stopped working is that when you try and use a Fabrial in the city, this weird yellow Spren arrives and screams, and then some fused come and take the Fabrial.
Yeah.
Which is why spam reads haven't been working. The Fabrials...
They can't soulcast because...
Yeah, like they're all locked up in the palace.
Yeah.
But somehow somehow she's able to keep feeding people.
Yeah.
So it's decided that they're going to attempt to find out what's going on at the palace.
Yeah.
And they're going to do that by Shallan dressing up as a messenger.
Yeah.
And taking a message from Elhokar to the Queen.
Yeah.
So whilst Elhokar is writing the letter, Shallan is going to dress up as Vale and go and like have a little scout of the city.
Yeah.
And she'll meet Kaladin outside the palace and he'll give her the letter. So at this point, she has to tell her friends that she's Vale.
Yes.
Because obviously Vale didn't come on a trip with them.
Yeah, so she needs to reveal that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have just been a different character. But
She could have.
It's
but,
cool.
You know.
It's cool. Fine. Guess we're stuck with Vale.
Yes.
So Vale is then checking out the city.
Yeah.
Just walking about, watching the cult
Do its thing.
being Vale.
Yeah.
She meets up with Kaladin at the fountain, at which point she changes out of the Vale face and puts Lynn's face on.
Lynn? Oh, Lynn, yeah, the Windrunner, yeah.
I mean, she could have just been walking around as Lynn this whole time.
I thought you meant Lynn, her dad. And I was
There's
like...
too many Lynns.
Yes. Well, Lynn, and Liren. It's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just assume they're all one person.
Yeah.
So Kaladin gives her the letter.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll come in with you. And she's like, no, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, I can handle myself. But why don't you stay close? And if there's a problem, I'll send Patton to come and get you.
Yeah.
So Kaladin sort of broods by the fountain whilst Shallan goes to deliver the letter. She gets to the top of the steps. They let her into the palace. The captain comes to meet her in the foyer. And she's like, the spell reads weren't working. Elakar was worried about his wife. So I brought a letter. I have to deliver it to the queen personally.
Yeah.
Just gets a sword out and just stabs her through the chest with it.
It's just like, no words, just immediately stabs. Yeah.
Like takes the letter, stabs her.
Yeah.
Leaves her body to bleed out on the floor and just goes back to his post.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. That's not right.
Yep.
Luckily, she is radiant.
Yeah.
And she drew in enough stormlight to heal the wound internally.
Yeah.
Leaving the cut open a bit.
Yeah.
So that...
If someone expects the order, yeah.
And so that it won't kill her.
Yeah.
After she's been lying out on the carpet bleeding for a while, someone eventually turns up, puts her body over their shoulder, walks her through the palace down into this old stone room. It's all dark.
Yeah.
She gets to meet Caves.
Caves is in this nice stone dark room.
He is also dead.
He is dead.
Along with some of the light eyes that
went
into the palace. Not all of them. But Caves is there.
Caves is there. He died as he lived.
Unknown.
Not on screen.
I'm sure we're going to get his backstory at some point.
That's what I want the Stormlight 4 to 5 novella to be. I want that to be the Caves novella.
Caves heroically storming into the palace to demand the queen stops partying. So Shallan sends Patton into the hallway outside to see if there's any guards outside the door.
Yeah.
I think there's guards outside the door.
Probably.
So she makes Patton imitate their captain's voice to call them away. And as the guards are gone, she puts on a servant face, illusion over the clothing. She slips out down the corridor. Finds an open, exposed bit of wall.
Yes.
Hole in the palace. So she slips through, she gets into a little building near the palace, and then she sends Patton to go and get Kaladin to her.
Yeah.
And she's like, dude, they stabbed me. He's like, okay.
Well, that's not good.
No. So then they go back to the safe house. After a couple of hours, she'd recovered.
Yeah.
It's decided that she's going to go out into the city and investigate the cult.
Yeah.
And dressed as Vale, she then goes out into the market.
Yeah.
And she notes that it's the market's quite quiet. There's not really any guard patrols. There's not really too many people about.
I'm surprised there's even the market still functioning.
Yeah, well, you can still buy some food, but it's quite pricey.
Yeah.
But there's free grain given out in a former bank.
Yeah.
So she goes to join the queue, and there's a couple of soldiers nearby, but they're not really controlling the queue.
Yeah.
Like, there's people cutting in and it's fine. There's people that they're letting do repeat trips without questioning it. They'll just randomly kick people out the queue. So Shallan gives one of the little urchins a meat stick and asks what's going on. And he tells her that they don't really let the poor have the food. And the light eyes servants come and they can take as much as they want.
Yeah.
The guards will just randomly kick poor people out the queue.
Yeah.
And it's not really a great system.
Yeah.
And she's about to give him another meat stick, but he runs away.
Yeah.
They then close the line because they're out of food for the day.
Yeah.
So Shallan wanders around and she wants to help, but she doesn't know how to.
Yeah.
And she's about to leave when she hears Hoid's voice.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, Wit. She hears
Wit's voice. Yeah.
Wit is telling the story of the moon.
Yes, this is the moon story that you wanted to talk about, yes.
I love the moon story.
Moon story is great. It's actually one of my favourites. Yeah.
So, there's 3 moons on Roshar.
Yeah.
And one of the moon spirits wanted to come down to Earth.
Yeah.
Tricked the princess into swapping places with it.
Yeah.
Enjoying itself, so doesn't want to
go back to being
the moon because being the moon is boring.
Yeah.
Eventually, the moon spirit is willing to trade places with the princess again. The princess comes back and she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's going on? And she's like, well, turns out that me and your brother, one of the other moons, have had a little thing going on for a while. And I finally managed to trick you into letting me go up there so that I could
have a moon baby.
Have a moon baby.
And that is where babies come from.
The moon.
The moon.
2 moons love each other very much.
So yeah, that's how the Natanaten people.
Yeah.
Is it Natanaten or is it Natan? I'm just going to say Natanaten, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where they come from.
Yep.
And that's why they've got blue skin, because
it's the blue moon.
The blue moon.
Yeah.
Do you know who else is blue?
Axes the Collector.
Kusakesh. You're welcome.
Also Kusakesh, yes. So you reckon that the moon, the blue moon is Kusakesh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that the spirit comes to the physical realm because he's looking for that baby.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ah.
But obviously he's like not really cognitive functioning.
Not all there, yeah.
Because he's not bonded.
Okay.
And that's why he just appears as a screamy face.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So who would the other moons be then? Because you've got Purple Moon.
Well, one of them would be Stormfather.
Yeah. And
the other one would be the Shadesmar creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I started off thinking that the baby could have been Hoid.
Okay.
I'm now not convinced.
Yeah.
Hoid talks about being born in a place that used to be a sea but is now shattered.
Yes, I remember this.
I am convinced that Hoid was born on the Shattered Plains.
Yes, because you think that the Shattered Plains used to be a sea.
Yes.
Yes.
And Hoid specifically says he was born in a sea that's now shattered.
Yeah.
Which, Shattered Plains, makes sense.
I don't think he uses the word shattered there.
I think he does.
I know for a fact Hoid would not use the word shattered there. I imagine he probably said something like, he lives on a sea which is now lost.
I think he said shattered.
Shattered means something very specific in the Cosmere, and Hoid is very aware, very, very aware that word means something specific in the Cosmere.
Yeah.
Okay, but you think Hoid's from Roshar, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think that's why Roshar is where he keeps coming back to.
Yeah.
I think...
Because he's mentioned that he's been here before, and yeah.
Yeah. Because he could have been born here and then travelled to a different planet.
Yeah.
There's no reason he can't.
Okay.
We don't know Hoid yet. There's too much to know.
Okay. I'm going to leave that. Because yes, it's true. We don't technically have a canon book about Hoid's backstory yet.
No, but I could do with one.
I mean, yes. So could I. Because I could point to it and say, here's why you're wrong. But okay.
Until that day.
Until that day, Hoid's from Roshar, guys.
So, he sees through Shallan's disguise. He's like, hey, Shallan. And she's like, cool.
He's like, how?
Yeah. And they decide to go and get lunch together because they're friends.
Yeah.
And they go to this inn and she asks him if he's a herald.
Yes.
And he says, oh, honey, I'm way older than that.
Yeah, which is great.
Yes. And I'm sure that these stories that keep getting told are about Hoid.
I wouldn't be shocked if some of them are about Hoid, yes. Especially
with
the girl,
how old he is.
With how old he is. And the girl who looked up is definitely a decent contender.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that one, won't we?
We will.
We'll get to that one. Don't you guys worry.
He said that he talks about how years ago he made a vow to always be there.
Yes.
I wondered if millennia ago,
yeah,
when he was young, someone close and important to him maybe died.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be there to protect them or something.
Ooh.
So I thought maybe he then made a vow with someone like the Night Watcher to always be there.
And they gave him the ability to
always be there
where he needs to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because of that, he now sort of gets a calling.
Yeah.
And he knows to go to a certain place. And he's sort of like drawn to things in that place.
Yes.
So that's how Hoid is always where he needs to be.
Yes, it's very interesting. Brandon has essentially said, I have a character whose reason for doing things is the book needs the thing to happen.
Yeah.
But then he's also made it so that this character mechanically in the world, realmatically, has the ability to know where they need to be for things in the book to happen,
which is cool.
It's like, good job, Brandon. You've done that.
Yeah. So now I assume that he's stuck doing that for eternity.
Okay.
He's then having they're having a general talk.
Yeah.
And he talks about Sadeas.
Yeah.
And she's like, mate, bad news for you. Sadeas is dead.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's awful. And she's like, really? You liked Sadeas that much? And he's like, no, I just wanted to be there.
Yeah. Which is understandable.
He's like, look, I'm going to have to reward whoever did that somehow.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting. I do wonder if eventually Hoid meets up with Adolin and is like, maybe gives him a present.
I hope
How
so.
cool would that be?
I
That'd
hope
be cool.
so.
Yeah.
So then he warns her to be careful of anyone that can see the future.
Yeah, and she's like, what, including you? And he's like, be careful of anyone who can see the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So immediately I've written the words Renarin really big because I am still convinced that he's got a corrupt Spren that that makes him see the future.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced that because it's corrupt, he doesn't see the future. He sees what it wants him to see.
Okay, like
so he thinks he's seeing the future, but it's actually just sort of showing him things.
Okay.
And like sometimes it shows him things that turn out to be right so that he trusts it, but sometimes it can like plant like things in his head that aren't gonna happen.
Okay.
So that's my Renarin theory.
Cool.
He tells her that tells her to be careful on the Oath platform.
Yeah.
Because the heart of
the Revel
is up there.
Yes. Good old Asher Marn.
If she can find some non-soul-casted food in the city.
Yeah.
The Cult of...
Moments.
The Cult of Moments will let her go up there.
Oh, okay.
So, Wit then slips out.
Okay, yeah.
Does the Wit thing and just leaves.
Yeah.
So then in the next scene, they're testing out to see because Shallan did her illuminating power outside of the tailor shop just to make sure that
the screamers didn't. Yeah,
if the screamers came, they wouldn't catch anyone else.
Yeah.
So they decide to test Kaladin's lashing.
Yeah.
So he lashes a rock just in the middle of a busy, like city place.
Yeah, he just like sticks a rock to the ground, right? Yeah.
No, he throws it up in the air.
Oh, okay.
And they're hiding behind like a plant pot. And immediately the yellow Spren is buzzing about, screaming. The fuse come down and they look around for a while, but they can't work out where it came from. Yeah. So they're angry with the Spren for not being able to
find the source of the power.
Yeah. They then are getting ready for the party.
A party, yeah.
Yeah. And Kaladin is brooding.
Obviously.
He's talking to Scar and
Drehi. Yeah.
Drehi?
Yeah.
He's annoyed that the Light Eyes are out there partying whilst people are dying and there's a war on.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but Cal, back on the Shattered Plains, we were still going out drinking and having fun.
Yeah.
It's just what you do.
Yeah.
And Kaladin reluctantly agrees.
Kaladin's like, fine. Ugh.
Light Eyes aren't awful. So Adelin's happy because he finally gets to wear something that's not a uniform.
Yeah.
So he's in his beautifully tailored outfit.
Aww.
I know. And Shallan puts an illusion over his face to make him look older. Well, to make him look like an older male, not himself.
Yeah.
She also puts one on Elhokar. Kaladin refuses one, but they're like, mate, you should at least cover up your brands.
Yeah.
So he reluctantly agrees to having his brands covered, but he feels like it's a forgery.
Yeah.
So they're going to the party.
Yeah.
Adelin and Elhokar go into the main party. Scar and Drehi.
Yeah, Drehi. Yeah.
Are going to go into the Dark Eyes tent, see what they can find out from the Dark Eyes soldiers.
Yeah.
Kaladin's supposed to go into the Light Eyes soldier tent.
Yeah.
And find out about Azir from them. Kaladin decides that he's going to skip out on that. He's going to go and check out the wall instead.
Yeah.
So he goes on a little walk and he encounters some wall guards.
Oh, okay.
And they immediately spot the brands on his head.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're a deserter. That means you're a trained soldier.
Yeah.
Mate, come have dinner with us. Tell us all about it.
They're like, please train us or tell us anything about being a soldier because we don't know anything about being soldiers.
They're like, we need men. Just come and join us.
Yeah.
So Kaladin agrees to go and have some food with them so that he can find out about Azir.
Yeah.
I don't think that the illusion worked on Kaladin because he obviously saw it as being dishonest.
Yeah.
And he is honor.
He is very, very honourable man.
Yeah. So I think that's sort of why the illusion didn't take with him. I think it's the same reason that the tattoo didn't take.
Yeah.
And why the Stormlight hasn't healed his brands.
Yeah.
I think he sees it as dishonourable to get rid of them.
Yeah, I think that's because he's really internalized that as part of his identity. And so the healing, it heals him to that part of his identity. It heals him to being branded. And the illusion's a weird one, but it's almost as if like his identity forces itself out through the illusion.
Yeah.
Or maybe even changed the illusion, I don't know.
So he's sitting in the barracks with them.
Yeah.
And he automatically like feels at home.
Yeah.
Like they're all very welcoming. He seems like he's getting on well with them. He gives them sort of like the basic story of like how he got his brands. He killed the wrong Light Eyes.
Yeah.
And they're like, mate, fair enough.
Yeah.
He looks around the barracks and he realizes that all of the soldiers in there are Light Eyes.
Okay.
And he's like, maybe all Light Eyes aren't as awful as I like to think they are, because these guys are pretty decent.
Yeah.
So he asks about
Azure.
And she walks in.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, turns out that she likes to visit the barracks every evening and catch up with all of the men.
Yeah.
Like, put a personal face on things. And it's quite clear that he is a she.
Yep.
And Kaladin is quite shocked that they all follow a woman.
Yeah.
But, like, no one will reference the fact that she's a woman.
Yeah.
They all sort of pretend that she's not.
They just don't talk about it, you know. They just,
Yeah. So she tries to lightly recruit Kaladin to the wall.
Yeah.
And, like, she tells him that if he changes his mind, he's more than welcome. But she doesn't try to push him into joining them. And she has a shard blade attached to her hip.
Yes.
I have a theory about that blade.
Yes.
I know that it's not right.
Okay.
But at this point, I thought that the blade was Taln's missing honor blade.
Yes, I remember you saying this.
Because timeline-wise, she gets the blade at about the time that Hoid had it. He had it.
Hoid potentially had it.
So she would have got the blade about the time that Hoid had it.
Yeah.
And it would have... Hoid would have been in the city about that time because he delivers some aluminium panels to the city.
Yeah.
So I thought that maybe he sort of brought them both in at the same time.
Okay.
So that is my theory on that one.
Cool.
So then we swap back to Vale.
Yeah.
Lucky us. She is sneaking into a mansion with her crew. Ishna is distracting the lady of the house.
Yeah.
By talking to her about rug replacement stuff. And the others slip upstairs. Shallan uses Patton's voice feature to get the guards to go down into the rug room. In that time, they sneak into the grain room. They start stealing all of the food using the dumbwaiter.
Yeah.
And they've loaded it up into the wagons. They've wrapped it up in the carpets that they also stole.
Yeah.
So that no one can see there's food in there.
Yeah.
And then they look up and the lady of the house has gone into the grain room. Found it empty.
Yeah.
They can see the anger Spren through the building.
Yeah.
So they start to pull away with their wagon to the gate. But the wagon is pulled by Chol.
Which are super, super slow.
Yep. So as they're trying to escape, the woman appears outside with some of her guards. They get a crossbow out. Shallan jumps onto the top of the wagon.
Yeah.
Does an illusion of the woman.
Yeah.
Scares the woman.
Yeah.
The guards hit her in the head with the crossbow.
Yeah.
So she's now got a crossbow bolt sticking through her head.
Yep.
Her illusion starts melting into this horror-esque moment.
Yeah.
Terrifies the guards, so they run back off. And she just sort of walks back into the wagon and she's like, this is fine.
Yeah.
And they're like...
Shallan, you've got
something.
Do you want to...
And she's like, oh, yeah, someone pull that out. I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
Because it's healed around it.
Yeah.
So
Vartha
pulls it out for her.
Yeah.
It knocks her unconscious slightly.
It's fair enough. That's going to hurt a lot. Yeah.
She wakes up and they go and distribute she takes a little bag of the food to the urchin that she's been feeding this last couple of days.
Yeah.
And she's been feeding him and asking him to look out for a book for her.
Yeah.
And it's a book on the Unmade.
Hessi's Mythica, yeah.
Yes, I can't remember the name.
That's fine, I can.
So she gives him a little bag of food and she's like, yo, who else needs feeding?
Yeah.
So he gives her a list and she starts going around feeding all of the people dressed as Vale so that she can try and get the cult's attention.
Yeah. I always really liked that moment where Shallan gets hit in the head with the crossbow bolt because up until that, I can't remember what the worst injury you see a Radiant get up until that point, but that's one of those moments where you kind of realise the extent of what
a couple of chapters before, we saw her get stabbed through the chest.
And getting stabbed through the chest would be bad, but Yasna had already been stabbed through the chest.
Exactly.
But this is a brain wound, and like even when like that's kind of what it kind of strikes you where it's like, oh, Radiants are really, really hard to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is a power level beyond anything we've seen in Brandon's stuff before.
You just have to make sure they've got no Stormlight.
Exactly.
Simple.
Yeah,
easy.
It's easy peasy.
Easy. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So we then swap back to Kaladin.
Yeah.
Who is out on a wall patrol. It's been decided that the best position for Kaladin to get his information is to join the Wall Guard.
Yeah.
So he's joined the Wall Guard, and every day Adolin checks in with him covertly.
Yeah.
And he gives him signals so that Kaladin knows whether he can stay doing wall duty or he's got to make an excuse and vanish.
Yeah.
So he's out doing one of his patrols. He kind of gets the impression that they've got a soulcaster, but he doesn't understand how they're using it without drawing the spren. So he's trying to find out information on that.
Yeah.
They then hear the wall drums for another assault on a section of the wall.
Yeah.
And he's helping hand out weapons, and he starts giving orders.
Yeah.
And he apologises to the guy that's actually in charge.
Yes, because he's just so naturally used to just being in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't their part of the wall that got attacked, so they're okay.
Yeah.
And he apologises to the guy, and the guy's like, no, it shows initiative, like, keep it up and maybe you'll get promoted in a couple of weeks. Like, good job, Cal.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, okay, cool.
So does Kaladin not give like a fake name? He doesn't, does he? Because no one knows who he is.
No, there's no need.
Yeah.
Vale is spending this time giving out more ration bags.
Yeah.
And to try and draw attention, her people that work for her have also dressed up as Vale and have illusions on as Vale.
Yeah.
So that they can also be seen at the same time giving out the
food.
bags.
Yeah, so she can get a reputation for being... Yeah.
Well, she's gathered that reputation now, and she is becoming known as the Swift Spren.
Ah, okay.
And she finishes doing what she needs to do. So she illusions herself to look like a Spren, and she joins one of the Cult of Moments parades. Yeah. And she hears a voice in her head telling her to give in.
Yeah.
Just
it's like, is this the one that's asking her for her? It doesn't ask for her pain. That's like a no.
It just wants her to give in to temptations.
Yes.
And then suddenly a voice in her head says, "I'm not your enemy."
Yes.
So I thought that at that point, I was like, is the Spren controlling the palace actually a good guy?
Yeah.
And like, had maybe the queen like gone crazy, and like this unmade Spren, although it's an unmade Spren and you're supposed to think it's bad. Yeah. It actually doesn't mean that, and it's actually like trying to work to save the city. And it found a way to communicate with Shallan. Okay. Maybe.
That's what you were thinking. That's how you were thinking.
That's what I was thinking at the time, yeah. So she manages to break the trance, and she starts yelling at people to go home and not to give in to the Spren. Yeah. She's sort of like having an internal talk. Yeah. And she thinks that her being a hero is what stops her from being logical. Okay. I don't know which one of them is thinking that, because it gets very confusing very quickly.
Yes, the lines between Vale, Shallan, and Radiant get very blurred very quickly.
Yeah. And then she sees Whit.
Yes.
And they sort of like wave to each other from a distance.
Yeah.
Then she goes home.
Yep.
She's struggling to be Shallan. Yeah. She doesn't want to be Shallan because Shallan is boring. Shallan is weak. She wants to dress up as Vale and go and find Kaladin on one of his patrols, because Kaladin doesn't know who Vale is. And she wants to have a little flirt. Yeah. She goes into like the room that they've been meeting in. Yeah. And Elakar's in there drinking wine. And he asks her about the strange pattern that's on her dress.
Yeah.
And she's like, mate, that's my Spren.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought at that moment, well, not at that exact moment.
Yeah.
But like Elhokar would say, I see those as well.
Yes, because we've already talked about how he sees them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was sort of expecting him to realise that he could be a Radiant.
Yeah.
And if he was a Radiant, he would be able to do the cool things that Shallan's doing.
Yeah.
And I was expecting him to make the first oath.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yes.
I thought, if anything, that would be the time when you do the first one.
Yeah. Because he's kind of realised what it is that he's seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows that he's not going crazy like he thought. This is something legit.
Yeah.
And to me, it would make sense because I think the first one you can just sort of say whenever.
Yeah.
After that is when you have to sort of like know what you want to follow.
Yeah.
But the first one's a generic one.
The first one, yeah, is the first one is the first step in your journey. Anyone can take that first step. It's a little more complicated than that, but I know what you mean.
He's having like a bit of character development
Yeah.
where he's trying to become a good king.
Yeah.
He's trying to be the important person he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be the right time for him to swear that first oath because this is him becoming a better king.
Yeah.
But no.
I think the reason he doesn't is Elhokar is a man with a lot of self-doubt.
Yeah.
And whilst, yes, he is on the journey, I absolutely believe if he had said that first oath when he realised that the people he was seeing at the corner of his eye were Spren, like Radiant Spren, and if he said that first, I completely believe, he would have bonded it. And he would have been able to take in Stormlight, all that kind of thing. But I think he just, even though he knew it, I don't think he'd accepted that he was good enough for that yet.
But
yeah.
Shallan, he then asks Shallan why she's never drawn him.
Yeah.
Because she draws everyone else.
Yeah.
So then Shallan draws him, and she draws him as the king that he could be.
Yes.
So he looks at the picture and he's really regal. And he's like, is this how you see me? And she's like, yes.
Yeah.
And he almost cries in front of her.
Yes.
He's so shocked by it.
Because he doesn't think he's good enough. He doesn't think that.
But at that point is when he realises that this is what people see.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that would be enough to get him to take the first oath.
I mean, it is eventually, but at that point, he's still got that self-doubt, that thing.
But at that point, he's started to make the progress. He's started to act like a king.
Yeah.
And I thought that change in him would be enough for him to want to say the first oath.
Yeah.
Because I wish he had at that point.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm not to speak for the Elhokar haters out there, because I'm sure they exist.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, but like...
But they're Moash fans.
Oh, she goes back to her room, and Ishnar hands her a note that she was given, because she was out dressed as Vale.
Yeah.
They have invited Shallan to go and join them on the platform.
Yeah. The Oathgate platform.
The Oathgate platform. So then in the next part, Kaladin just finished his wall patrol and he makes his way to a storm bunker for the rich light eyes of the city.
Okay.
And he gets inside and he meets up with Shallan and Adolin.
Yeah.
And Shallan tells them about the invitation, says that after they finished in the bunker, she's going to go get the supplies she needs.
Yeah.
And she's going to go and check out the platform finally. And they're like, cool, that's great.
Yeah.
Adolin reports that Elhokar's doing really well as being king.
Yeah.
He and Adolin have managed to convince quite a few of the Light Eyes to pledge to support them.
Yeah.
And they have given troops for the eventual assault on the palace. Yeah. Kaladin has found out that the wall has got a soulcaster.
Yeah.
But not just that, but as the city was sort of falling, they broke into the bank and took all of the emeralds.
Yes.
So they also have enough emeralds to keep making
food.
Because emerald is the gem that they use.
Yeah.
So the storm finishes.
Yeah.
They leave the storm shelter. Kaladin goes back on duty.
Yeah.
Adolin and Shallan leave together.
Yeah.
Holding hands.
Yeah.
Adolin is like, "Oh, Shallan, you've not shown me your sketchbook in a while. Can I see?" So she does, and he's flicking through and he's like, "Wow, these are incredible." And she's like, "They're okay."
Yeah.
And then she stops him at the one of him, and he's like, "Wow, I'm hot." And she's like, "Yeah, you are." Because her next sketch is Kaladin looking just as attractive. And she obviously doesn't want him to see that.
Yeah.
So she takes the sketchbook back, and she's like, "Right, I've got to go and do my thing."
Yeah.
So he goes back to the house. She goes to meet up with her guys in an inn.
Yeah.
So they can discuss the next job. So they're sat around talking.
Yeah.
And one of her guys is looking at some sketches that she's done.
Yeah.
And the innkeeper bursts into the room because she's suspicious of them.
Okay.
And as the innkeeper bursts into the room, Vatha?
Yeah.
Vatha?
Yeah, Vatha.
Vatha?
They have Vatha, Ishna,
Vatha
yeah.
accidentally draws in Stormlight and
yes.
takes on that illusion.
Yeah.
And the lady leaves and Shallan's like, "Wow, that's impressive, but you forgot the back of the head."
Yeah.
And he's so surprised that he cries.
Aww.
It's a really sweet moment.
Yeah.
So they leave.
Yeah.
They go and steal a wagon's worth of food. They drive it up to the steps at the bottom of the platform. There's a couple of guards and a lady in a mask.
Yeah.
They're not impressed that she's brought Vatha along with her, or that she wants to keep a couple of the food bags back, but she's like, "It's this or nothing."
Yeah.
So they take the rest. Vatha takes the wagon to a predetermined location.
Yeah.
Shallan goes up onto the platform, where she meets her guide, Karath.
Okay.
Karat?
I don't remember this person.
The Ardent from the Ardent story.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Same guy.
Not the one that got executed, the one that was like the...
Obviously not.
Obviously not. Oh, okay, I didn't realise it was the same guy.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I'm sure it's the same guy.
It probably is then.
Let's go with it.
Let's go with it.
He names her Kishi.
Okay. It's a nice name.
Kishi.
Yeah.
And he shows her the feast on the outer ring of the platform.
Yeah.
And
it's all rotten food.
No.
Oh, no.
It's delicious looking food.
Oh, okay.
There's glassy-eyed people.
Yeah.
Just sort of milling about, eating the food with their hands. Occasionally a couple go into the monastery together to
have some
alone time together.
Yeah.
And she's quite shocked at what she's seeing.
Yeah.
And there's a voice in her head that keeps telling her to give in.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Cool, this is fun."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Totally not here to stop me from doing what I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
I need to go and lie down." And he's like, "I don't really want to go into the monastery with you." And she's like, "But I need some alone time."
Yeah. And he's like, "Well, all right then."
And he's like, "Cool, I'm going to sit outside the room."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, that's probably for the best."
Yeah.
Patton starts talking to him in that voice that Shallan's hearing in her head.
Yeah.
Is telling him to go and help himself to more drink.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're just going to be sleeping in there, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you mind if I go and grab a drink?" And she's like, "Yeah, go for it."
She's like, "Go for it, Karat."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whilst he's gone to get a drink, she makes an illusion of her sleeping on the bed.
Yeah.
Her and Padden sneak out. She changes her face to become Kishi.
Yeah.
And she sneaks onto the inner ring of the platform.
Yes.
This one, the food is rotted.
Yeah.
The people are crawling along the ground.
They are
Their
along each other.
Their clothing is ripped up and coming off.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's the
part once you've given in.
Yes.
And she makes her way across this platform to the control tower. And the control building has this like dark mass covering it.
Looks like a giant beating heart. Like a dark heart.
I don't think we see that one yet.
Oh, okay.
This is just like a giant goop creature covering the building.
Oh, okay.
And there's a voice that tells her it's a trap.
Ah.
And her shadow starts pointing in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, time to leave.
Yeah.
So she jumps off the edge of the platform.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. And whilst Shallan is doing that...
Yeah.
Sorry, she hears drums and then she jumps off the edge of the platform.
Okay, yes.
Because while Shallan was doing that, Kaladin was on duty.
Yeah.
Something felt wrong to him. But he gets called to dinner and he gets invited to sit at the captain's table.
Yes.
So he's sort of sat at the edge of the captain's table.
Yeah.
And he's not too pleased about being on the end. Someone gets up to go to the toilet, so he jumps into their place opposite Azure.
Yeah, Azure.
And he starts probing her for answers.
Yeah.
And she starts doing the same back.
Yeah.
And they're having quite a heated back and forth.
Yeah.
And everyone around is like, we regret bringing him.
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, just come out and ask me directly what you want.
Yeah.
And he asks her why...
Why is she doing this?
Well, why people don't discuss the fact she's a woman. And she just sort of turns to him and she's like, are you chasing me? Are you one of the people chasing me?
Yeah.
And he's like... That was a weird answer.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I think you meant like romantically.
No. No.
I thought she asked him, like, are you coming on to me?
No. And before he can answer, the drums sound to say that the city is under attack.
Yes.
So they all run out, and the Parshendi fused are attacking from the sky.
Yeah.
And it seems that this is the start of the attack
battle
of the city on...
Yeah.
Yeah, the attack on the city. So they're fighting, and it's really hard to form a formation because they're attacking from all angles from the sky. One of them lashes Kaladin. He counters the lash and zips into a guard building.
Yeah.
The fused is confused.
Yeah.
Follows him in, and they're like lashing each other in the sky.
Yeah.
And he stabs the guy in the fight, and it does nothing. Yeah. And then Syl tells him to stab him in the chest. So he stabs up into the heart, and there's like something strange there.
Yep. And he hits something. Yeah.
Yeah. And they fall down back onto the wall.
Yeah.
He draws in Stormlight to heal. And like the initial attack seems to be over for the moment. And Azure's like, well, that's the first one we've ever taken down.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you? And Kaladin gets out his shard blade and he's like, I have been sent here to save the city.
Yeah.
You need to answer my questions.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what do you want to know?
Yeah, she's like, more than happy to.
And he asks her how they're getting all this food.
Yeah.
So she takes him into a secret room built into the middle of the wall.
Yeah.
And they go down into this room. And there is a woman who's soul casting, and they've got two sisters.
Yeah.
Who take it in shifts to just soul cast solidly throughout the day and night. And the room is lined with aluminium.
Yes.
Which means that their fabrials can work in this room.
Without being detected by the screamers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But only in this room. So then we cut to Adolin.
Yeah.
Who has been waiting for Shallan to get home all night.
Yeah.
He's worried sick.
Yeah.
She walks through the door and he hugs her and he's like, I'm so glad you're okay. And she's like, I'm radiant, mate.
Like, I'm always going to be okay. I've got to ask Lucy, when are we going to address the princess in the room? Azure.
Oh, have I forgotten?
Have you not got to put it anywhere?
No, I have. I just didn't talk about it. As soon as it was revealed that Azure was a woman,
yeah,
I immediately messaged Ben with that section of the text, and I was like,
Vivenna, question mark?
Oh no, like Vivenna, exclamation mark. Exclamation mark.
Okay, if you say so.
Because whenever there's a new female character on screen, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Because I have been waiting for Vivenna to turn up for ages.
Yes, because you've been convinced. I tried to keep this from you as best I could.
Yeah.
A lot of us in the know knew Vivenna was going to be an Oathbringer. It's one of those things we wish we didn't know. And Brandon's been real quiet about Rhythm of War, which makes me happy. We kind of knew Vivenna, so we were suspecting everyone. It's kind of where the May Aladar thing came from as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that as soon as Vasha was there, and as soon as Nightblood then turned up, I knew for a fact that Vivenna was going to be there because she left with Vasha. Yeah. So they have to have been travelling together. Yeah. So as soon as any female character was on screen, I would message Ben like, Vivenna, question mark? But then as soon as Azure was there, I was like, no, that's definitely her.
Vivenna, exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the first sentence out of her mouth was a colour metaphor.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, that's her.
You're like, yeah.
That's her.
I think it took 2 colour metaphors for me to pick up on it. Yeah. I think I didn't pick up on the first one, and then the second one I was like,
No, after not picking up on Vasha immediately, I have been analysing the words that have come out of every female's mouth. So yeah.
Well done for that one, Lucy. Well done for that one.
Thank you. I am quite impressed with myself, even though it's really easy. So they're hugging. They look out of the window. Yeah. And Kaladin is walking up to the shop with a whole army. Okay. Because in order to save the wall, he's told them that Alethkar currently has troops waiting on an oath platform. Yeah. If they can get the gate open, all those troops will be here to protect the city. Yeah. So Azure has brought a whole load of men, and they're going to help them take the palace. Yeah. So they can get more guards for the wall, because that makes sense. And then Elhokar comes down and he's like, right, if we've got the army, go and get the other troops. We're leaving. We're doing the assault now. Yeah. So Adolin takes a moment and he starts doing like his like before a fight like rituals. Yeah. He can't do them because he's not had chicken and he doesn't have his mum's chain with him, unfortunately. Yeah. But part of his ritual is he talks to his blade. Yeah. So he's talking to his blade. Yeah, he's having a little chat. That makes me happy.
Yeah, having a little chit chat, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they go and they assault the palace.
Nice.
So they have 3 shard blades between them. Mm-hmm. So the shard bearers go cut holes in the wall of the palace. Yeah. And then the army sort of like makes its way in. And they all do this successfully. And they manage to take the foyer of the palace. Yeah. The guards retreat and sort of doing like a siege on a hallway. Yeah. Azure is like, right, me and my men will clear that hallway. Yeah. And then you guys come up afterwards. Whilst they're waiting, Adolin sort of like gets a strange feeling. Yeah. So him and Elhokar go round to the side. They open a guard barracks and find a load of their troops. Yes. Who got locked away for not agreeing with the Queen. Yeah. And despite being in there for weeks, only think that they've been in there a couple of days. Yeah. They're not hungry. Starved, yeah. They feel fine. So they go and join the fight. Yeah. And they get back and they've just about cleared the hallway when, before the fight, Shallan, Kaladin and their little group went off to come in from the other direction, the Oathgate direction. Okay. And they get to the end of the hallway at the same time. And they're like, cool. Excellent. Secure on both sides. Yeah. So then Elhokar is like, well, going to get my wife and kid. Yeah. So Kaladin goes with him and a small
retinue. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else goes with Adolin to secure the platform. So we split off.
Yes.
So they're going up the stairs, and like when they go past troops, Elhakar's like calling to them like, I'm your king.
Yeah.
Don't you recognize me? But the men just like blankly stare ahead.
Yeah.
Kaladin sends Syl ahead to make sure that they're not walking into an ambush. And she tells them that she can see the queen in her bedroom.
Yeah. But something's wrong, right?
No.
Okay.
Syl is like, oh no, it's okay. It's safe to go ahead.
Yeah.
So they approach the queen's chamber and
Yeah.
they can hear her singing inside.
Yeah, she's having a nice little lullaby, you know.
It's like nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Humming away.
Yeah. And as they get into the queen's chamber, it cuts back to the second group. Shallan approaches this gigantic purple heart.
Yeah.
Like they fought their way to the control building.
Yeah.
The goopy thing doesn't seem to be there. It's just this giant purple heart-looking thing in the middle of the tower.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to... This is like...
It's like switching... Yeah.
So the queen's acting normal.
Yeah.
And she's talking to Elhakar.
As if nothing's going wrong.
Yeah. He's like, where's Gavinor? The baby's called Gavinor.
Good name. Great name for a baby.
Gavinor.
Gavinor.
And she's like, oh, Gavinor's playing with his friends. And it's like, but he's a baby. What friends could he have? Syl finds him and pulls Kaladin over to where he is.
Yeah.
Whilst Elhakar is talking to the queen. Kaladin finds baby Gavinor on the floor behind a changing screen.
Yeah.
Being attacked by these weird red spren.
Yeah.
So he summons the Silblade.
Yeah.
And he manages to kill the spren by stabbing them.
Yes. This is the first and only time we've seen this happen.
Yeah.
Like, Kaladin's... I think even Syl says something weird happened. She's like, that didn't feel right. Something was wrong there.
I thought that they were like... You know how the fused fuse with one of their old gods?
Yeah.
I assumed it was a load of them trying to get inside of Gavinor to like fuse with him.
Like a fused spren.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's something I hadn't actually thought of before, because obviously the fused spren are a little bit different to normal spren.
Yeah.
So the fused, it goes into the Parshendi and takes over the Parshendi body.
Yeah.
It's not like a spren, it's not something. It is a cognizance of shadow. So yeah, the idea that those little fused red spren could have been... Those little red spren were fused spren.
Yeah.
And that's why they were able to be killed by this shard blade is really interesting. I hadn't actually thought that before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't normal spren, were they? And if the queen is under the influence, why wouldn't she want her son to also be under the influence?
It makes sense, yeah.
So Kaladin picks up little baby Gavinor.
Little Gavi.
And he goes back and he gives him to Elhakar, and Elhakar calms him down.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the queen and he's like, look, come with us, we'll get you to safety.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I'm safe.
Yeah.
I'm where I want to be.
Don't you
I'm
know?
doing what Gavilar couldn't do.
Yeah.
I managed to fuse with them. And I'm now one of them.
And it's like, oh no.
Time to leave. So they make their retreat.
Yeah.
And they're going down the corridor.
Yeah.
Switches back to Shallan, who's using her pattern blade to try and kill the purple thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, so she decides that she's going to try and do what she did with the last one, use her hand.
Yeah.
Cuts back to Kaladin.
We were about to say
Kalinor.
Oh my god, you can't ship Gavinor and Kaladin. That's illegal.
So it switches back to Kaladin.
Yeah.
Who... They're making their way down the staircase.
Yeah.
They're fighting the Queen's Guard on the way down. They get to the bottom and the Parshendi have broken through the wall.
I was going to say,
and they're now in the palace.
This is all happening during the full invasion of the Parshendi back in the city.
So much happens. Like, this is like...
This escalates super quick.
Yeah. Yeah. They get to the bottom of the stairs and the Parshendi that Kaladin spent all that time with are at the front of that assault.
Yeah.
And
Kaladin.
Kaladin
Oh my gosh. Kaladin. Carry on.
Kaladin
Yeah.
is like trying to like tell everyone to stop fighting.
Yeah.
And then he has this like big emotional breakdown because
he's watching people the wall guard he's been bonding with and the Parshendi he's been bonding with.
And the king that he's sworn to protect.
Yeah.
And he, normally in a wall, it's us against them.
Yes.
But this is the first time where he can see it from all sides. And he just doesn't think it's honourable to do anything in this situation.
I was going to say, he just doesn't know what to do. It's barely even an honour thing. This is just straight up I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks behind to Elhokar, who is holding Gavanor. Mm-hmm. He's holding Shallan's picture. Yeah. Should have been holding a blade, let's be honest. Yeah. But he started attempting to say the first oath. Saying
he
should have
8 words
done it by now.
Yeah, look, because this is the point. He saved his son, right? And so in his head, he's finally realised, I am that king that people want me. I can be.
Done it before
that is him. That moment was him realising he's like, I can do it.
Yeah.
That was his moment.
And it would have been nice if he could finish the last word.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But Moash just literally jumps through a window. Yeah. Stabs him. Yeah. Football kicks the baby across
the room. Drop kicks the baby.
Salutes the Bridge 4 salute at Kaladin.
Which is the most infuriating part.
So angry. Yeah. And then just jumps out the window again. He's done.
Yeah, he's out.
Why?
Yeah, I
hate Moash.
Is such a good moment. I absolutely hate Moash, yes.
Yeah.
But what a well-crafted moment that is.
I'm so mad.
Yeah.
So mad. And at that point, Adolin gets into the room. Yeah. Kaladin looks over. The Queen has scooped up Gavanor and has retreated up the stairs with him.
Yeah, she's going for a touchdown,
Adolin's like, mate. Yeah. Adolin's like, mate, we need to go now. Yeah. So they rush over to the platform. Yeah. Kaladin is barely able to function at this point. Yeah. They get there. Shallan has touched the big purple heart thing. Yeah. And after a couple of
back and forth.
Yeah, a couple of little backs and forths in her head, it just melts and goes away.
Yeah.
And she's like, that didn't feel right.
Yeah, it was different to when she fought Roshar.
Yeah. And Azur's set up her men to guard the platform. Yeah. Adolin looks out and he's like, the city is lost. Yeah. There is nothing we can do but make sure we get out safely. Yeah. And Shallan's about to engage the tower when something in the mirror is like, don't do it, it's a trap. Yeah. And she's like, you're an unmade, I can't trust you. Yes. And it's like, look, I didn't want to work with them, but they controlled me. Yeah. They made me
We were made and then we were unmade.
Yeah. Yeah. It made me
corrupt the
Spren that controlled the platform.
She calls it enlightening, I want to say.
I don't know, I can't remember. And she's like, just don't don't activate this. But then Kaladin and Azure come in the room with Adolin and they're like, Shallan, what's taking so long? Yeah. And she's like, I've just been told it's a trap. Yeah. And Adolin's like, do it.
Better than being here.
Do it. Yeah. And the Spren's like, I'll try not to kill you. Yeah. And then they go through the gate.
Yep, next video, Oathgate.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Dalinar.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Dalinar is looking out over his armies on the Oathgate. Yeah. They are desperately waiting for communication from Kholinar because they've not heard from them since hearing that the siege has started. Yeah. And then the spam read just suddenly starts up and tells them that they've lost the city. Yeah. And that's it. Goes dead. Yep. Yep.
So yeah, that's
It's not.
Yeah.
It then goes back to Adolin.
Yeah.
He falls off of a hard surface into a load of beads. Yeah. And Azure pulls him out onto a platform and it's black and it's small.
Yeah.
And there's like a tiny, tiny sun in the sky.
Yeah.
Got a theory on that one.
Ooh.
You're welcome.
I'm interested.
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
Okay.
There's 2 gigantic Spren in front of them. One is black, one is red.
What? Oh, one is red. Okay.
Yep. Because it's corrupted.
Because it's corrupted, yeah.
And he sort of like staggers back and he falls into Syl.
Yeah.
He works out who Syl is.
Yeah.
Works out who Patton is.
Yeah.
And then there's a strange lady with scratched out eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I thought that maybe Azure had a Spren.
Yes.
Because she says about not liking Shadesmar and she's been there before. So I thought that to get there you had to have a Spren.
Yeah.
Didn't take me long to realise that that's Adolin's Spren.
Adolin's sword. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sword.
It's a sword.
I'm glad that we finally got to meet her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that was part 3. How'd you like part 3?
Yeah. Can only go up from there, right?
That's one way of putting it, yeah? Pretty much.
Yeah.
I always, so fun fact, Brandon's spoken about this part 3, the siege of Kholinar, yeah. And he's compared it to Well of Ascension.
Yeah.
He said he's always wanted to write a city siege where they lose the city afterwards.
Yeah.
Ever since he wrote that. So this is almost like a Well of Ascension, like 2.0.
If you had given them Vin, they wouldn't have lost.
Pretty much. I am in agreement there.
Yeah.
So, interludes.
Yes. I'm going to start with Venli.
Yep.
I'm going to do all of Venli.
Yep.
Because this is one where...
She's got 2.
She's got 3.
Oh, she's got 3.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I'm just going to do them all in one go.
Yeah.
So Venli is on a platform giving a very biased account of what happened on the Shattered Plains.
Yes.
To a group of singers that have been, like, brought to her.
Yeah.
And she talks about her friends sacrificing themselves for their freedom.
Yeah.
And she tells them that they should fight for Odeon. And they're in scholar form, the ones that she's preaching to.
Yeah.
And they're doubtful that it will work.
Yeah.
And Venli is frustrated at how far behind the singers are compared to the new forms.
Yeah.
And she goes back to the mansion that she's staying in, and the Fused are in there talking about what they should do in order to try and rebuild the Parshendi kingdoms.
Yeah.
And she suggests using human slaves to speed up the process.
Yeah.
And one of the Fused says, no, we've got to kill them to stop them from getting more surge binders.
Okay.
So she goes back to her room. And she lets her Spren out of the little bag that she carries it around in.
Yeah.
And it's curiously looking around the room, and it's using the old rhythms.
Yeah, so it gives her like access to those which she'd lost.
And she tries to get it to leave her alone.
Yeah.
And it insists that it's staying.
Yeah.
And that's where we finish the first one.
Yeah.
I like new Spren.
Yes.
So then Venli is taken to Kholinar.
Okay.
They fly her there via lashing.
Yeah.
And she reflects on how Esh and I would love the view.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I would also love Esh and I.
Yeah.
They tell her that the village where she was preaching was practice for her new job.
Yes.
And that's where that one finishes.
Okay.
That's a very short one.
Was it a very short one? Okay.
And then the last one is Venli sitting in the storm shelter that she's in. She now has to do her, like, we freed you speech several times a day.
Yes.
Like, groups of Parshendi get brought to her, she does her speech, she goes back in the bunker, does her, and, like, that's her day now.
Yeah.
She's not allowed to go into Kholinar. She's been specifically told you are not to go into that place.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I can only assume that it's to do with the Unmade.
Maybe, yeah. How strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. This is after they've taken it, right? This is after the Second City, yeah.
So she's in her room and she's named her Spren Timber.
Yeah.
And Timber is flying around and it pleads with her to resist odium.
Yeah.
And Venli wishes that Eshonai was here to do this instead.
Yeah.
And then she's got her windows open and the Everstorm arrives. She has a vision of odium.
Yeah.
And she is like overpowered by it.
Yes.
And like her body feels like it's burning
yes.
to pieces. He confirms that she belongs to him.
Yeah.
And then she collapses and like passes out.
Yeah.
And she wakes up and she tells Timber that she's got the wrong sister and Venli can't resist him. And that's where we leave Venli.
And you know what? She's right.
Yeah, she is. She's not wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, how are you feeling with Venli in this book?
I don't like Venli in this book.
Yeah.
My impression of Venli from the other books was that Eshonai was sort of like the more compassionate one.
Yeah.
And Venli was sort of like the...
Me.
Well, like very self-centered.
Yeah.
Very wanting to be in charge of everything. Hates humans and wants them all destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's weird that she switched so quickly. Like, it feels like she's very compassionate. Like,
Yeah.
although a huge part of her still wants to be in control and, like, kill all humans, blah, blah, blah. I feel like part of her is quite compassionate towards them as well. And, like, I don't know whether that's the Spren that's doing that.
Yeah.
But, like, she's clearly resisting odium in order to have Timber. I don't know, like, I feel like her character changed very quickly.
Yes. Do you know what? I know exactly where you're coming from. I also don't like Venli in this book.
Yeah.
I've kind of warmed to her in time.
Yeah.
But
like,
just from what's in this book, I didn't like what I was reading.
Yeah, well, I want to like her.
Yeah.
But, like, in this book, she doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I felt like I've said this before, I feel like she stole Eshonai's arc.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Eshonai died because Brandon got complaints about Words of Radiance, people coming back to life at the end of Words of Radiance.
You just don't like saying you're wrong.
No, I don't mind being wrong. But then it felt like Brandon then decided to kill Eshonai and then have Venli do Eshonai's arc.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying about how she feels more compassionate and like she feels more nicer now.
Yeah.
I was like, I think it's because this arc was supposed to be for someone who is nicer, for someone who is good, is better. Yeah, I just have never really liked Venli in this book. I really hope Rhythm of War convinces me otherwise.
Yeah.
Because we're reaching that point now where it's like, it's going to be their book. It's Venli and Eshonai's book.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, well, they're their flashback characters. And so, yeah, I really hope that she's better in Rhythm of War.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's all hope that.
Let's all hope that. Who's the next character?
Mem.
Oh, Mem, yes.
Yeah. So Mem is a laundress.
Yep.
Laundress,
yes.
She washes clothes.
Yeah.
And she washes the clothes of Maraise.
Yes.
And she's just got a new wash girl who's incredibly attractive.
Oh, yes.
Young Pom.
Yep.
And she's taking some weird stains out of Moraise's clothes.
Yeah.
And then she takes Pom with her to deliver Moraise's clothes.
Mm.
They get to his, I'm going to say mansion. I expect him to be in a mansion.
Let's be fair, it's Moraise, yeah.
And they're walking through one of the rooms. And he's got some, like, big art pictures of heralds on the wall.
Yeah.
And Mem turns round and Pom is up on a chair, scratching the face off of the one of Shalalak.
Yes. Oh my god. Shalash.
Again, that feels wrong.
I don't know why.
I don't know either. Anyway, she's scratching that one's face off. And Mem is horrified.
Yes.
And then Maraise walks in the room. And he's like, I see you here. I knew this would draw you in.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mem, get yourself a pay rise and leave my home.
I believe he also says, don't worry about those stains. Aethers are hard to get out of clothes.
Yeah.
And to me, okay, so Aethers are a magic system. It's one of the last major magic systems we haven't seen in the Cosmere. It's from the book Aether of Night. We don't really know a lot about them, or at least I don't. I think you can read it somehow. I think it's just like unpublished. Anyway, what makes me laugh about this is I love the idea that every so often Mraize gets his Aether out and he just like dropped it on his trousers and he stained his trousers. He's like, oh, I dropped my Aether. Oh, and I just find that really funny. It's like, it'd be like, imagine if he had blood stains because he was getting his hemalurgic spikes out to show people and he accidentally dropped one on him and he's like, oh, I got blood on me.
Well, technically, he wouldn't be him anymore.
Then he wouldn't be, yeah. Anyway, so who's Pom, Lucy?
Pom is Mistress!
Yes.
A Mistress was scratching the face off of the depiction of Ash.
Yes.
So now I'm convinced that Mistress is Ash.
Okay.
And then Mraize offers her a drink and she goes to leave.
Yeah.
And then he tells her he knows where Thaylen is.
Yeah.
And she stays and talks with him.
Is this not straight up confirmed that she's Ash in that chapter?
Oh, well, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's straight up like it can't be anyone else at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that I finally got more Mistress because I missed her in the last book.
Yes.
I like Mistress.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got more of her.
More of her, yeah. I was going to say you were close on that one chapter.
Yeah.
You got that she was either you thought she was a descendant of a herald.
Yeah.
And
No. I either thought that she was a Radiant, a descendant of a herald, and then I remembered that heralds could be female.
Yes.
So maybe she was a herald.
Yeah.
But I couldn't narrow down which of the three.
Yeah.
I realised quite quickly that maybe not Radiant because they've got to die at some point.
Yeah.
At which point I either put her down as a child of a herald.
Yeah.
Or the herald itself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you know, I do wonder, you mentioning descendants of heralds does make me think they've been around for 4,500 years.
Yeah.
That's enough time to get around pretty thoroughly, right?
Well, it depends. I don't know what the herald reproduction system is.
Yeah, I assume they're human, other than the fact that they're like...
Can they reproduce anymore?
Yeah.
Are they so damaged psychologically that they're just not interested?
Maybe. But there's
got to be at least one of them that like just sits around giggling to themselves all day. Because the... what are they called? The fused are like that.
Yes.
And if they've been in the same place experiencing the same thing, obviously it's going to have that sort of effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I have a theory on where there's another herald in this book.
Okay.
And then it got confirmed at the end of the book.
Was gonna say, I was like, there's one that just sits about giggling to himself all day.
Yeah. Which I would like to point out, I had guessed that it was a herald.
Okay, during the flashback.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll talk more about that next
spoilers.
video. Yes. What was I going to say? But yeah, I think in my head, I'm like, man, imagine if there's like, you could have a large family of people descended from you in 4,500 years. That's enough time for like a bloodline to really like solidify into like a decent group of people. Like, I do wonder if any of the heralds had kids. Oh, this
maybe that's how you get radiance.
Maybe. No. I'm not even entertaining your bloodline a radiant ideal. We've had arguments about this off camera.
Well, right.
Okay. Let's do this again then, shall we?
So many of the radiants we know, their family members are also radiants.
Yes.
Like Kaladin had Tien.
Yeah. Shallan had Helleran.
Well, we don't know Helleran. Suspected.
Yes.
Yasna had Elhokar.
And Gavilar. Yeah.
Renarin has Dalinar.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day Adolin.
Yeah.
And they're also Kholinar.
And they're also Kholins.
Technically they fit into that. Like,
they're all part of the same family, yeah.
I don't know, I feel like there is some sort of genetic link, like genetic predisposition to becoming
radiant.
I don't think it's the only way.
Yes, yeah.
But I definitely think that, like,
there's something there.
Yeah, there's some sort of like bloodline link.
And I couldn't disagree more, purely because for me, the entire not the moral, what's the idea? The philosophy behind the Knights Radiant is just being genetically predisposed to becoming one kind of goes against that philosophy of the whole Knights Radiance is about a genuine self-discovery anyone can go through.
You clearly have to be damaged in order to be able to accept a Spren.
Kinda, yeah. There's a pattern there, yes.
Well, there's more than just a pattern. All of the people
there's also a sill and a windle.
I know, but all the people we know that have them have
I do agree, yeah. You don't have to be.
They're not these perfect people. Like, they've got a flaw to them.
Yeah. But then everyone has flaws to them.
Yeah, but I think the damage is like how the Spren are able to get in and fuse.
Yes, or bond.
Bond, sorry.
Yes.
Bond.
A fused fuse, the Spren bond.
They could be fused if they want to be fused. We have no proof they're not the same thing.
Okay. I mean, okay. I'll allow it. But yeah, I just think that's just because they're the main characters as well. The main characters are, I think you don't like that.
I don't like that just because you could have main characters not being from the same families.
Yeah.
They could just be people that have sort of found a way to come together.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Who's the last?
The last one is Shelter.
I have no idea what this...
Look, he feeds into one of my earlier theories, so go with it. So, Shelter is given the option of 3 punishments from a Hadesian
He's the
general.
Hadesian prisoner, yeah, okay.
He's not a Hadesian.
No,
he is the prisoner of a Hadesian.
He's the Hadesian prisoner. He's the prisoner of the Hadesians.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For an unspecified crime.
Yes.
He can either face the sword...
Yeah.
Where each woman that he has...
crimed against.
Each woman that he's abused...
Yeah.
Can take a swing at his neck and slowly behead him.
Yeah.
He can choose the hammer.
Yeah.
Where his arms and legs are broken and he's suspended off the side of the cliff by the ocean until he just dies.
Yeah.
Or he can choose the hog.
Yeah.
Where he gets greased up and has to wrestle the hog.
Yes.
Obviously. He protests the treatment and demands right of ransom.
Yeah.
And he claims that he only did what he did because his homeland was under attack and he had no choice.
Yeah.
And Hadesian...
Yeah.
General is like, mate, you were stealing from innocent civilians and murdering innocent civilians.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly. Like, you're not entitled to it.
Yeah.
So in the end, he chooses the hog.
Yeah, as you would.
He gets oiled up.
Yeah.
And then some gigantic claws break the surface of the ocean.
Giant enemy crab. Yes.
Hog, it's got claws.
It's got claws, the hog.
And the hog is just a nickname.
Yeah. So it's a giant great shell that lives off the north coast.
It's not a great shell.
Is it not a great shell?
He's only described as having giant claws.
I assume,
and I took those as like bear claw style claws.
Oh!
I didn't take them for like crab claw style claws.
Everything on Roshar is a crab, Lucy.
Not everything.
Like, everything on Roshar is a crab. It's crab claws. I hadn't even thought bear claws. That's really funny.
Look, it might have travelled with the humans.
Maybe it's a giant bear that lives in the sea. Maybe.
Yes, sea bears.
Sea bear.
Sea bears.
It's a giant water bear.
Yeah. I did kind of play around with a theory that maybe like the hog and Kusakesh were the same thing.
I remember you mentioned
and like
this. It
travels in like just a constant 24-hour loop.
Yeah.
But like that's dumb.
Yeah.
So let's drop that one.
So let's drop that one. Cool. So that's the end of that then.
Yeah.
How you? Hey Daisy, how you doing?
And yet the hog, I decided,
Yes.
lives in the cognitive realm.
Yes.
And only sort of comes out when he's called by the Hadesians.
Okay.
Which is why we've never heard a mention of him before.
Fair enough.
And it's why he's described in the exact same way as the creature in Shadesmar.
Okay, I will say the creature in Shadesmar who has giant claws underneath the beads.
Yeah.
This is when part 4 again.
Part 4 spoilers.
Yeah. But yeah, they both have giant claws, yes.
Yeah.
But I do argue it's just because, they're both things that live on Roshar, and everything on Roshar is a crab. So
Not everything.
Not everything. But yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Any other last thoughts about part 3?
No.
Cool.
Oh, I have a general book issue.
Okay.
Right. I was going to save this until, the end of part 5.
Yeah.
But
now's a good time.
Now's a good time.
Yeah.
Just because it keeps happening and it annoys me.
Yeah.
Right. I have a massive... These books to me, something's felt off.
Yeah.
Not in a I'm not enjoying these books way.
Yeah.
But something felt missing.
Yeah.
And I finally pinpointed during this book what that was for me.
Yeah.
So, I have an issue with, the bonds in this book.
Okay.
Let me explain.
Probably the worst word you could use.
I know that that's the worst word to use because it probably means something.
Yes.
Right. I have an issue with, the family dynamic portrayals in this book.
Okay.
For example, Yasna comes back from the dead and we don't get, an emotional Kholinar scene.
Yes. Or Colin scene.
Yeah. When they think that Yasna's dead, we don't get, a nice scene of, Elhokar comforting Navani.
Yes.
There's never a scene where, the Kholinars are,
Yeah.
being a family.
Yeah.
They just sort of seem to, ignore each other.
Yeah.
And if they're in the same room, they don't really acknowledge their family.
They just talk about business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their dynamic is strange to me.
Yeah.
Elhokar and Yasna, I don't think ever have a scene together.
I think this is a complaint where, I don't think Elhokar and Yasna ever have a scene together, and I don't think, whilst they both have scenes with Navani, they've never had a scene with Navani where there's not other characters present and something else is... we've never seen Elhokar or Navani have a conversation that's not about something else. Or,
or there's never a moment where, I don't know, Navani's worrying about her grandson with Elhokar.
Yeah.
And Elhokar's it's okay, Mum. My wife's there and she'll protect him.
Yeah.
You don't ever get, nice, happy family scenes with the Kholinars.
Yeah.
You get a bit between Dalinar and Yasna.
Yeah.
You get Dalinar and Adlin.
Yeah.
You get a smidgen of Dalinar and Renarin.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. But you don't ever get, the Kholin,
the Kholins, the main family.
The main Kholin family.
Yeah.
They don't ever seem to, have family time.
I'm pretty sure, and I would be shocked if this wasn't the case, but the reason for that is because we'll get that in Yasna's book.
Yeah, but
and she's intentionally keeping it until... I do agree that it would be nice to get it as it's happening.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get a bit more Kholin family dynamic then.
That's just hoping.
That's just hoping,
I also have an issue with Adolin.
Yes, I remember you mentioning this.
So there's 2 huge deaths that happen in Adolin's time in these books.
Yeah.
The first one being the death of his mum when he's 12 years old.
Yeah.
And we never get any kind of reaction from him.
Yeah.
I don't think that he ever talks about his mum.
He doesn't, because obviously in order to support his mum, you might spoil things about his mum.
Yeah.
But I wanted to keep that for Dalinar's book.
Yeah, but him and Renarin just sort of... You don't ever get a moment where they find out their mum's dead.
Yeah.
Or, they're trying to comfort their dad.
About missing them, or they're kind of
Yeah. You never get any sort of sad Adolin.
Yes. You don't get...
Yeah. And the second big one is when Shallan and Kaladin fell into the
chasm.
Chasm.
Yeah.
there was never a reaction from Adolin. Like, that got missed.
Yeah.
Like, and then when Shallan comes back, he was like, I've been talking to the princes to distract myself from the fact that you were dead.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been nice if, like, because he's quite an emotional person.
Yeah.
I was sort of expecting, like, him to be locked in his room.
Yeah.
Refusing to come out, like, starving himself, like, unable to function.
Yeah, like what he did for Kaladin when Kaladin was in prison. And then you think Shallan's died. And yeah, I do what you mean. You don't
get sad Adolin. I want sad Adolin.
You want some sad Adolin.
I want sad Adolin.
Yeah. Sadolin.
Sadolin. I also...
Yeah.
There's something else that's missing for me in these books.
Yeah.
And that is that there's no female time.
Oh, yes.
And what I mean by that is, like, we've got a few female characters.
Yeah.
But none of them seem to have, like, female friends.
Yeah.
Like, none of them ever have, like, a time where they're talking to another female character about their feelings.
Yeah.
Or, like, doing an activity with them.
Yeah.
Like, the closest you get is Shallan being Yasna's ward.
Yeah.
But it's very much like a professional kind of relationship between them.
Yeah.
And I will argue with anyone, it was mildly romantic, and I will not be told otherwise. But, like, Shallan doesn't have any female friends that she sits and talks about her emotions with.
Yeah.
And, like, Yasna doesn't seem to have any female friends that she hangs out with either.
Yeah.
And Navani used to have Sadeas's wife.
Yeah.
But now she just sort of spends all day by herself.
I guess the closest you've got is Navani's Ardents.
Yeah.
Like Rushu and...
But, like, they work under her.
But I mean, she technically owns them. They're technically slaves.
None of the female characters have female friends.
Yes, it's definitely
that they
a flaw.
sit and talk about their problems whilst eating ice cream with. You know?
Yeah.
And they don't... Like, Shallan confides in Wit and Kaladin a bit.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if she had a friend.
Yeah.
I just want Shallan to have a friend.
Yeah.
I want any of them to have a friend.
Any of them get friends. I think you get a bit of, God, not even Ishnar. Ishnar has the potential, I guess.
Yeah, but again, like, Ishnar works.
But that's what I mean. Like, if those squires eventually become their own light weavers, and, like, Ishnar's one of them, then I guess her and Ishnar could eventually become friends.
Yeah, but, like...
Ishnar's very, I don't know, she's not really a character. She's just kind of there.
Yeah, you know? Like, I don't know, like, I feel like some characters get a lot of, like, emotional scenes.
Yeah.
And other characters don't get any.
Yeah.
And, it just seems a bit, like, off balance.
Yeah.
So, that's my thoughts on part 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And my general issues with the Cosmere.
And your general issues with the Cosmere. Cool. Well, guys, if you're still here and you're still awake,
sorry.
Fantastic. Thank you. This was really long.
Good. Enjoy.
But unlike the others, which can be kind of exhausting, this one was really fun. I really like part 3 of Oathbringer. I think it was a really good book.
It is great.
And so, thank you guys for watching. Follow us on 17shard.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We have a Discord. You can come talk to us on Discord. I forgot to mention the Discord this whole time. Lucy's now on Discord.
Yeah.
That's going to date this video. We've started making videos for safehandhub.com, so you can find us there. We have a Patreon, so give us money. And then we'll see you guys next time. Bye! We didn't talk about Shallan's breakdown and Wit's story.
Fuck.
Right, so we're going to add this bit on the end, because how can we not talk about this? I don't even know when we missed it.
I was going to say it was after she jumped off the platform.
Yeah, and you said she saw Wit and then went home.
No.
Yeah.
Right. No, it wasn't that bit.
No.
So after Vale jumps off the platform, the next scene with Vale is she takes that food that she set aside earlier.
Yeah.
And she's going out to deliver it to the people that she feeds in the city.
Yeah.
And she goes to give some food to the street urchin child. Yeah. And he sort of like, she doesn't have a lot of food this time.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like trying to convince her to stay.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm just going to go and do a lap of the market. I'll come back and check on you.
Yeah.
She leaves. She walks around the market for a bit. She comes back and he's got some thugs in the room with him, like threatening him.
Yeah.
So she goes in and she's like, leave him alone.
Yeah.
And one of them hits him over the head with a club and like shatters his skull.
Yeah.
She scares them off. And, like, she goes to comfort him. And she's like, it's okay, it's okay. And he's like, I hate you.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not them. I'm Vale. And he's like, no, I hate you.
Yeah.
The street gangs started attacking me and taking all my food the second you started giving me food.
Yeah.
And they've gone around and done that to everyone that you give food to.
Yeah.
Like, I hate you. You brought them to my doorstep.
Yes.
And he dies.
Yeah.
She quickly, like, goes and checks on, like, one of the other families that she's been feeding.
Yeah.
And they tell her the same message, like, I hate you for what you've done.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. And Shallan, like, runs into an alleyway.
Yeah.
And she's trying to find a persona that can deal with this level of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just changing faces, like, constantly, like, trying to... She's, like, having a breakdown.
She has a breakdown. Like, she straight up has a breakdown.
Yeah. And, like, Wit finds her.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just want this pain to go away. And he's like, no, this is how you grow. Like, you've got to take this. You've got to accept that this happens and you've got to learn from it.
Yeah.
And, like, they hug. And, like, it's a really lovely scene.
Mm.
And he retells the story of
the girl who looked up. Yeah.
And...
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah. His version is different. The girl gets to the top of the wall.
Yeah.
She climbs down to the other side. She steals the light.
Yeah.
She goes back to the city and that brings the storm.
Which knocks down the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sort of asks her, you know, you've got to rebuild. You've got to learn and keep going. And then she slowly makes her way back to the tailor shop.
Yeah.
So.
The girl who looked up.
The girl who looked up.
What's your theory?
Right. I think the girl is Hoid. I've already said that.
Yes.
I think that the light she steals is like the original shard.
Okay.
I think she like sees it and she like takes it.
Do you mean the thing before the shards? The shard.
Before the shard got shattered and turned into all the little ones.
Do you know the name of the thing it was before it was shattered?
No.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
It was Adonasium.
Okay, that name has been mentioned.
It has been, yes.
Cool.
So it was. So before it was 16 shards, it was Adonasium, the god, basically.
Yeah. Well, I think the girl finds the shard and like takes it. And, like, people come after her because they're mad about it. Yeah. And so she breaks it up into little pieces. Okay. Because she takes a little bit of light.
She takes a little bit of light, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's my, like, completely out there, random girl who looked up theory that I know you're about to tell me is very wrong. And I'm okay with that.
Here's the thing I love about the girl looked up is there is, like, 3 different things it could be. Yeah. But they're all equally likely because this story is... such a good like tale that it can be applied to different situations. Yeah. So the first one I'm going to go in chronological order. The first one is potentially Hoid. Yes, that's the girl who looked up, and him doing something. Yeah. Taking like magic for himself. Yeah. That's why he's called Bearer of the First Gem. Is maybe that's why. Yeah. He's called Bearer of the First Gem.
So
is
what
maybe
I just said.
Yes, basically what you just said. Bearer of the First Gem. And so he went somewhere, he got a bit of God's power, and then God did something in retribution for that. Yeah. And there's some other theories, and I'll tell you about the other theories when we get to the end of the book.
Okay, cool.
Cool. But yes, no, Hoid being the girl who looked up is a definite potential. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.